And we're live! And welcome to a special edition of Botha Rants. This is going to be a response video to the debate Xanderhal had with Lauren Southern a few nights ago. For those,
I will say, well,
hold on, shut up! I've not introduced you yet.
Well, no, I'm concerned about. Oh wait, there we go. Sorry. There was more delay than I thought, and I was worried that the sound didn't start. I was sorry about that.
Oh, right, we've already fucked up the intro. Thanks for that, Ozma. Yes,
well, I'm sorry. I was worried about you. I care about your channel going well, and I wouldn't want you to get have a bad day.
I'm having a bad day thanks to you now.
Oh. I care about you.
Right, yes. As you can hear, Ozma's with us for this one because it's going to be epic. Because it's a really long debate. Xanderhal with Lauren Southern. Lucky enough, the trans stuff is near the beginning, so.
Yeah, because I've got like. Oh wait, no. I was gonna say I've got like 3 hours. And it's like no, I've got like 4.5 hours.
All right. Okay, well, we'll see how much we can get through this bullshit.
Yeah.
Seriously, it's not the greatest of debates, I have to say that. Anyways,
Wait. Xanderhal with a terrible debate.
well, yes,
Call Dusty.
yes, well,
Mention
yes,
that.
yes. I remember doing a response video to the cult, to the debate. Xandra Hall did Cult of Dusty, and of course, Cult of Dusty is a friend of the channel. He's in fact, I've had him on this channel last year. You can go and check out the interview I did. Sorry, I don't like using the word interview. A chat I had with him last May. It's in the both the chats playlist. Anyways, yes, I do remember the Alexander Hall debate with Cult of Dust, and I remember doing a response video to it with somebody who forgot to put the fucking put the fucking mute button on.
Turn the mute button. No, actually, well, I mean, okay, so I am just going to attempt to hand wave it by mentioning that I've only been streaming for less than 2 years, so I'm using that as my excuse. It's not a good excuse, but I'm using it anyways. I refuse to accept the mistakes I genuinely made.
Yeah.
So I am apparently taking cues from Xanderhal.
So, anyways, let's get on with this bullshit, okay?
I'm already dead inside in preparation.
All right. Oh yes. This is just to explain the depths to which Lauren Southern sinks. She was involved with an anti-immigrant immigrant boat, or xenophobic boat, as I like to call it. Basically trying to essentially, let's not beat around the bush. Kill refugees fleeing from Libya, the civil war in Libya. How lovely!
Oh yeah,
yeah. People who are fleeing from their lives, and who we've got more than enough room and resources to accommodate. But no, Lawrence Southern is a racist piece of shit who would rather have them drown in the fucking Mediterranean. And in fact, here's the thing. She's Canadian. So why doesn't she just stick to if she's such a white
three?
What do you do?
Sorry, I'm thinking of horrible Canadians. I can think of at least 3 off the top of my head.
Well,
now.
I can think of 2. I was going to get to the other one in a minute. So, yeah, I mean, if she's a white nationalist, why doesn't she stick to fucking Canada? I think she's actually banned she's banned from entering the United Kingdom. If memory serves me right. I know that her and the other horrible Canadian I know, Stefan Molyneux, they got chucked
I forgot about Stefan Molyneux. There's okay, that's 4 now.
They both got chucked out of New Zealand. They went on a speaking tour of New Zealand, and they got chucked out of New Zealand. She's currently in Australia, which I find kind of ironic, considering that Australia's immigration policy is often considered the most racist one of the most racist in the Western world. Basically, if you're white and you're well off, yeah, you're welcome. Everyone else, fuck off. Yeah.
Yeah, including the native population.
Yeah. So, as I said, we're going to get into this.
Oh,
yeah,
God.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, let's start.
Okay, I didn't prep enough.
Sounds pretty good.
Perfect. All right. Well, we'll just leave the blue Yeti over there. I'm sorry for being late. I had to find my lighter. Gotta have the candle on. Little known fact, white women are exclusively powered by scented candles, so
What?
it's been a disaster without it.
I understand that. My girlfriend also has a scented candle, though she doesn't use it much. But I also know, and I guess this sort of supports the more conservative view of women.
I should explain. The reason Lauren Southern basically agreed to this interview is she's got a book to plug.
Yeah.
A kid's book.
A lot of conservative people do shit like this, and
yeah, a kid's book. Here's the thing. You know, the far right accused the left of brainwashing kids with, what was it, drag hour story time, and you know, here's Lauren Southern, you know, a white white supremacist, you know, fucking trying to brainwash kids with a children's book. I call fucking hypocrisy on this one. Anyway.
Well, I mean, the thing is, Xanderhal should know better, and the fact that he doesn't is bothersome.
Yeah.
In my experience, women also have no body heat. Like they always want the house turned up as hot as possible, and that's been.
I heard your poor girlfriend's freezing her butt off for you.
She is. We got the AC turned nice and low for this conversation because I sweat like crazy when I sit in a leather chair. So nice and cold.
No worries. Well, it's good to be here. I appreciate you having me on the stream, and I do
already
appreciate you admitting in your.
Well, yeah, there is a bit of sexism going on with this, isn't there? Yeah.
Yeah, it's casual sexism.
Yeah.
Always fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Review of my book that you were a bit prejudiced when first picking it up, and you actually like it. You're a fan of the ABCs of morality.
Yeah, overall, I don't think there's anything, at least on a surface level, that's worth taking too much issue with. Though I was just curious, and I wanted to see if you would elaborate on some of the meaning behind a few of the definitions that you gave.
Yeah, for sure. So, overall, good book, but there are a few problems you have. That's where we're at.
To be fair, the problems aren't really with the book itself. I guess if I were to give my concern in a more succinct manner, I would say, knowing you as a conservative figure, you are certainly conservative and pretty well.
She's conservative. She's a raging fucking Nazi.
Yeah.
Well known for that. I feel as though if a well-known leftist figure wrote a book for kids, and the main idea behind it was to teach kids values of some kind, right? Most likely left-wing values. I'm curious, would this not perhaps make you a little bit suspicious?
It would depend what the book actually said. And that's what kind of surprised me at first and why I quite frankly accepted this debate, is I couldn't believe you would challenge me to debate a book you had never read before. It was just, there's kind of this degree of internet brain rot people get where they just assume this person is on righty Twitter or this person is on left-wing Twitter, therefore anything they produce must be complete.
Hold on. Sorry, I forgot to... I want to speed it up a bit because I want to get through this, like tonight. Yeah.
Yeah. I usually like 1.5x speed or 2x speed, depending on who's talking. If they're slow enough, 1.5 is usually fine. You can usually pick up everything or perfectly fine 1.5, unless the people are really slow. Because I've had them at some people are at 2.
Yeah. Let's we haven't got time for this.
Yeah. Sorry.
Anyways, no. The other point I was trying to make is that one of the things I try not to do is I kind of think political Twitter isn't actually interested in politics. It's interested in political Twitter. So you're always going to get people reacting to other people's videos all the time, right? Rather than actually, a lot of the time, rather than actually dealing with the issues. Now I know that plenty of YouTubers do try and talk about the issues.
Sorry about that. Had to get my cat out.
And I do feel a bit of a hypocrite for, for basically being part of political Twitter, which is taking an interest only in political Twitter here. However, Lauren Southern does say some utter shite which does need to be challenged. And Xanderhal does not do a good enough job in challenging her, unfortunately. So that's why we are here. But don't expect this to become the routine for this particular stream, because generally I want to talk about the issues in the real world on this stream.
Yeah.
Rather than what else political Twitter is doing. Sorry, not political Twitter, political YouTube. Sorry, it's very late here.
Completely evil, irredeemable, and I know I'm going to be able to debate them on it because I'm going to disagree with everything they say, and that's just not how the world works. And I have no doubt that there could be a left-wing YouTuber or a creator that could write a children's book in which I would agree with everything in it. I would never, straight up assume every single bit of it is going to be awful. Now, I have
I call bullshit on that one.
Seen left-wing kids' books that I've read, and I read it and I disagree with the points, and I think, I don't really think that's quite for children, but that's after I've actually opened it up and read it. And I don't think the author is as relevant to children's books as people like to think. Are we going to get rid of say The Jungle Book because a lot of people consider Kipling to be racist, or say Horton Hears a Who, which has become an explicitly kind of anti-racist message, despite the fact that now people consider Dr. Seuss to be bigoted. So I just even if you don't like me and you don't think I'm a good person or read it,
well, it was actually the publisher who pulled those Dr. Seuss books.
Yeah, and
I remember the far right were making out that this was council culture, that this was some giant liberal conspiracy. No, it wasn't. It was the actual publisher of the books who decided to pull the books. So, yeah, okay.
Whatever your opinion of me is, which I probably disagree with, I don't think the author is as relevant as you may try to portray. But I also think you've kind of worked yourself into a corner here where you've told people you're going to debate me on the book, but you don't actually disagree with the book that much. So I genuinely feel there's going to be a lot of reaches here. But correct me if I'm wrong.
I guess we'll see. I'm actually curious because you brought up the idea that the author of a book doesn't really matter, especially if it's a children's book where the beliefs of that author aren't necessarily apparent on surface level. Are you familiar with a phrase, the death of the author?
Yes.
Yeah, so
in what context are you using it with this? Yeah.
I guess the idea is that if you have a piece of media and there's no apparent bias or message put in by the author that indicates the author's beliefs, yet the author believes these things, and this is a piece of media or art, a book, a movie, anything like that, the idea is that you try to separate the art itself from the artist. Now, if I were to do that with this book, I don't really have all that big an issue with it, really. But what I'm more concerned about is what you mean when you say certain things in the book, because I know that you're probably not going to put in everything that you agree with in the book, or it's not meant to be super overtly political. So I'm more interested in discussing your motivations behind the definitions of the words that you put in there, and that's what we could discuss.
Sure, let's do that. And where would you like to start? What are the words that you have the most issue with, let's say?
Okay, yeah, I don't want to go over every single one, obviously, because I don't take issue with most of them. But I guess we can start on E. Okay, do you mind if I read it off, or?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. E is for equal opportunity. Everyone is equal when they're judged on the same scale, praised if they're successful, and accepting if they fail. Everyone, both boy and girl, of every race and class, should live by the same standards that they should strive to surpass. Don't try for special treatment, for your friends or for your enemies. If you lose a game that's fair, you can learn from the memories of what you might have done wrong and what you can do right, which is always better than a rigged and unfair fight. So, pretty good rhymes there. I like it.
Thank you. I heard you said I dropped some bars. I appreciate that. Big compliment.
Yeah, we got some fire bars in here. So I'm curious, because obviously there's a lot of discussion about equality and rigged or fair fights in the political scene. I'm curious if this wasn't perhaps a slight reference to the idea of systemic racism, for example. What was your thought process behind making that particular rhyme?
Actually, the ABCs of equality, which was the kind of left-wing edition of this book that I wrote this to be a more neutral version of, put just equality for theirs, and they defined it in more of the left-leaning terms of, equality is when you kind of even the scales and everything, which of course, I don't really agree with the idea that, for example, you should boost certain people's grades to get into universities dependent on their race. I disagree with that.
That's a lie, and it's a dog whistle to
also
racists.
Not true. Nobody boosts people's grades to get into...
That's what I said. I said it was a lie.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That part. I was just sorry. I misinterpreted which part you're saying was a lie or whatever.
Well, but the fact that people of color are having their grades boosted to get them into university, that's also a racist dog whistle.
Yeah, no, 100%, because it's implying that black people can't get as good enough grades. Sorry. I thought you said what her feelings on that were a lie or whatever. But yeah, that racist bullshit statement is absolutely a lie.
I think we should be judged on the same scale as people. I think that that creates true equality. I shouldn't be given special treatment if I'm a woman. A man shouldn't be given special treatment if he's a man. I'm pretty sure that's what we call patriarchy, if it's only men being hired because they're men. So I do think this, once again, is something that can lean both left and right. No one, if they're white, they shouldn't be given special treatment. If they're black, they shouldn't be given special treatment. I'd like to think that's not something we disagree on.
No, principally, of course not. I'm curious, though, because obviously a lot of very left-leaning people would bring up something like white privilege. What are your thoughts on that?
I think that it is used as something that's far too broad and across the board to tell people's stories for them, and it's really dehumanizing in a lot of ways for people whose lives are not privileged and yet they have, white skin. I'm not for the idea of white privilege. I think that's pretty evident. I think it's
well.
And how many times have you been stopped by the police then, Lauren?
Yeah, the thing about privileges oftentimes is people don't think of them as privileges. If it's the norm for you, it's easy for you to ignore any sort of benefits you have with comparison to other groups of people, and naturally, equity is a purpose to address the problems, some of the problems that help destroy any actual sense of equality.
Relevant to consider historically relevant systems that exist. So, for example, if you're in a European country, yes, it is more likely that people who are white are going to be the royalty. It is more likely that they are going to be established and wealthy because they've been there longer. They are the ones who established.
And they're also the ones who got rich off exploiting people of colour with colonialism and slavery.
Yeah.
And also, they're also the ones who basically perpetuate institutionalized racism, blah de blah de blah. Look at the whole furore there's been about Meghan Markle marrying into the British royal family. Well,
yeah,
it's purely on the colour of her skin. Yep.
The country. We can talk about that, but there's also peasants. There are also people who are oppressed. There are also, even in the forming of America, I won't compare it directly to slavery, but it's not like the Irish or Italians were thought of particularly highly. So I think that we shouldn't use these terms that really work people into boxes and deny their personal life experience and history. My personal history, my grandmother was a war orphan who was sent to orphanages and homes in Australia and had to escape because she was horribly abused and got on a boat at 16 to Canada, where she grew up homeless and dumpster diving. I think it would be horrible to say she had a privileged life just because of her skin color. So I really reject the notion that we can just assume everyone who has white skin has some sort of privilege. But I do think it's relevant to say in some areas, people with white skin may be more likely to have privilege or wealth.
Do you mind if I elaborate on the definition of white privilege, at least as I understand it and as most of the academic community seems to?
I understand there are different definitions of white privilege, but I'm talking about it in the way that it is popularly used within pop culture, within discussion, within even my own classrooms when I was growing up. But feel free to go ahead.
Yeah, so when at least I talk about white privilege, and when most academics talk about white privilege, they're usually referring to the remnants or even still existing systems that seem to specifically target the vast majority of people of color, typically, but not white people. So, for example, here's a good example, right? You can be a poor white person and have it really, really rough, right? And you can have a rich black person who, economically speaking, has it very, very well. There are still certain things that white person has, very small privileges that white person has over that rich black person. Is it life-changing?
Yeah, not getting the shit beaten out of them by the police due to the colour of their skin.
Yeah. Not to be shot by pedestrians because, they're going back to their home and it's in a rich neighborhood. And there's a black person walking into a rich neighborhood. So that's just doesn't make any sense. Must be trying to rob them or something. That sort of fucking attitude.
Is it revolutionary for their overall well-being? Probably not, but it is still worth talking about because when we get down to it, these are the types of biases and the types of privileges we probably don't want to exist in society, right?
Sure.
Yeah. So
okay.
Yeah. Typically, I'm referring to things like the injustice in the racial justice system, the racism there. We agree on that, right? You agree about the racism in the criminal justice system?
You'd have to point out direct examples. I think there, people would argue that It could go either way in some cases, but you'd have to, historically, most likely we'd agree. Modern times, I don't know. We could also talk about, once again, the racism in college admissions. We could talk about the racism in affirmative action hiring and how people who are...
Oh, for fuck's sake. She keeps going on about affirmative action, doesn't she?
Well, yeah, because I think because she believes in this bizarre idea of racism against white people because of affirmative action.
Yeah.
So when she's talking about racism, she is trying to take like a centrist approach and be like, all the any person in any sort of who has any sort of bad luck must be because, well, if a white person has bad luck, it's because the system is clearly against white people, and if a black person has bad luck, it must just be because they're dumb.
Also, she says that no one should get preferable treatment. Well, then how does she feel about then, buildings having step-free access for disabled people? Because isn't that preferable treatment towards disabled people in her perspective, from her perspective? Yeah.
Well, yeah, well, I mean, that's
something that people.
Yeah, that's a whole mess of related conversation, but.
Well, no, but the point I'm trying to make is she's saying no one should get preferable treatment, and I'm saying, right? Well, then does she count, disabled wheelchair users getting
having? She doesn't care about wheelchair users. Why would she care about wheelchair users?
Buildings having,
it's their fault. Buildings having
to have step-free access. Does she think that that's preferable treatment? And the thing is, I would reckon that she probably, maybe not that blatant, but there would be other forms of ableism which should be okay with.
Although there's far too much ableism in general, I'm not sure.
Well, but the point I'm trying to make is this is not something which is often spoken about, and I thought, well, it's worth bringing up. Anyways,
more qualified for roles don't get them because of their skin color or because of their gender, and you would say that that's an equaling out of things. Well, I disagree with you there.
I actually would disagree because I think, from my understanding, I believe those that benefit most from affirmative action are actually white women, like more well-off white women, from my understanding.
I don't disagree with that. I think it's ridiculous.
Yeah, I don't think that affirmative action on its own is exactly the best way to go about amending these particular problems. When I talk about...
Okay, and I agree with you. That's what this is saying. I don't think that's a good thing. I don't think it's a good thing to boost people just because of their skin color or their race. Because actually...
so...
nicely conceded to fucking Lauren there, Xanderhal.
Well, yeah, but like, okay, so... fuck. See, this is the problem. I took ethics, so, like... I understand what Xanderhal is referencing. However, that's not an argument against affirmative action. Affirmative action should still be in place. The problem was a bunch of white feminists tried to take it away from aspects of affirmative action away from black people, and I think it just needs to be set up slightly different and adjusted so that it can be a better system. Like, you don't throw out the baby with the bathwater.
Yeah.
Takes away from the achievements of very successful minorities, very successful women that have worked hard for these positions, and everyone looks at them and questions, did you get this because you were an affirmative action hire, or did you get this because you're an incredibly talented individual? So I don't think it's been positive for anyone in any way, and even you're saying yourself, well, actually this has just benefited certain...
Well, okay, so that's another thing. So, like, the problem is you need a certain level of qualifications to get any job, and so it I have a lot of problems. I'm not really in the great best brain space to word all of my problems with that statement, but
here's the thing: because of systemic racism there has been in the United States, right?
Yeah.
Having basically affirmative action, particularly when it comes to employment, is a good thing, because people, black people getting into the workforce,
Well, not just getting into the workforce, getting into decently paying jobs.
Yeah, exactly, and proving that they're just as good as any white as good as any white person. And thus, encourages other employees not to be so fucking racist. So, anyways.
Classes and groups, and it's not necessarily been positive at correcting the overall problem.
Yeah, so when I talk about privilege or systems that are racist, I'm not necessarily referring to like affirmative action. I'm referring to things that are a lot easier to pinpoint and there's a lot more data behind and that are way more impactful in most people's lives than just whether or not this person gets hired for this job because they're white or black, or this person gets accepted to this university because they're white or black. I'm referring more to like the overrepresentation of incarceration in prisons when it comes to black people and white people, the overall socioeconomic position of black people in this country, and just generally non-white people as well. I'm talking about issues like this. Obviously, the leftover ramifications.
Can I just quickly tell you something? I'm not addressing any of that in this book. It's a children's book. I am certainly not trying to make...
She's trying to divert from the subject.
Yeah,
and she does this, and she does this throughout this debate, by the way. So just to warn you.
Oh, yay.
Yeah. Soon as Xanderhal starts making, any valid points. Yeah, that's not in the kid. That's in the book. That's in the book I wrote. Plug my book. Plug my book. Plug my book. In other words.
Make any sort of hidden mention of, the incarceration rates. I'm not talking about that at all. This is literally just saying we should treat people equally.
See, she doesn't want to deal with it. It's all about plug my book, plug my book, plug my book.
Regardless of their gender, skin color, and judge them on the same scale. That's it. There's no hidden message here talking about all of these extensive...
No, it's not hidden. It's pretty much in plain sight, the messaging of that book. Just what Xanderhal read, I've got problems with, just in terms of the book, because it adds the element of suggesting certain things are untrustworthy, and it's definitely posits a problem with equity. Like, there are genuine problems with the book, and when people are young, they get taught certain propaganda that's taught in a certain way, where even if they don't flat out say it, they give a little nudge. The Civil War was mostly about states' rights. Black people weren't so upset to be slaves. It was just like a bad job. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Subjects you've brought up here, and even if I wanted to, there couldn't be. It's a children's book. It's an extremely simplified concept. So I really think you're using this point that you don't really disagree with to go off on tons of other topics that you maybe want to discuss with me, and we can save for later when we're done the book. But this has nothing to do with all these topics you brought up, that equal opportunity bit.
Well, I apologize if it seems that way.
When we've done with the book, when I've done plugging my book, and then I'll make my excuses to fuck off. In other words, yeah.
Yeah.
But my main point is that you can't completely separate the beliefs of the author from the art. So when I read this, my interpretation was, okay, so we're talking about equality and how people should strive to surpass, and winning a rigged fight isn't really something that's worth any merit. And so I couldn't help but think of, because I watched a lot of your content back in the day, of when you would talk about how the left overblows the problems with the racial inequalities in the criminal justice system. It just brought me back to that.
It had nothing to do with that. You guys can look it up. There's this book called Postmodern Pooh, and it's a book which tries to argue in jest that Winnie the Pooh is actually just rife with post-colonial theory, and it's actually books about satanic ritual abuse using Piglet and other things, and it's quite a funny book for adults to read, and it mocks the idea of over reading into this and how you could literally interpret these kids' books to be the craziest ideas you can come up with.
Well, considering your history, Lauren, I would expect people to, try and read between the lines of a book you've written for kids, knowing that you possibly would love to indoctrinate kids with your far right bullshit.
Yeah.
That is something you should fucking expect. Don't play fucking innocent.
Well, they always play innocent and always play the victim.
You're starting to just go into that territory a little bit, where you are taking this book and somehow making a poem about, hey, we should treat all genders and races equally, about the disparity in incarceration rates in America. You just I can tell you right now, that wasn't even in the peripheral of my mind when I was writing this. And I do think this brings it back to the point I was making, which is I feel you've worked yourself into a corner where you don't actually disagree with this book. You don't disagree with me on the content. So you are trying to deliberately create. She's
assuming there. I think he said that generally he didn't think it was a bad book. But she's assuming. I mean, so Xanderhal, unfortunately, at the beginning of the book said, "Well, it wasn't a bad book," you know. So he's kind of.
He said he was fine with the on a surface level. He said he was fine with the content on a surface level.
Yeah, and that basically has handed her the ability to basically, you know, say what she's saying and basically get one over on him. You see, the problem with Xanderhal, he's not a great debater. He's great. He's great when it comes to maybe, I don't know, some oafish alt-writer who basically trolls his Discord, and he'll basically say, right, you're going to cut, you know, you either, you know, come on the show and debate me, or I'll bar you from your Discord. I've seen him do that in the past. But when it comes to someone like Lauren Southern, who's pretty savvy to debate.
Wait, why didn't Xanderhal want to debate me instead of just blocking me on Twitter?
Did he?
Yeah, he blocked me on Twitter because of that video that I put out showing like the first. It was effectively just making fun of his debate against Dusty, and it was just like, you know, because he's the first part of the debate, he basically caves in, and I just said he speed-runned getting owned. So after that, I found out I was blocked by Xanderhal on Twitter.
Well, unfortunately, he's getting owned here. That's the problem.
Well, yeah.
Disagreement that isn't there.
Okay. Yeah, if you didn't have any like political, if there were no references or bias politically to this, and it was just like, hey, we should treat everyone equally, then I have no issue with that. Okay. Do you want to move on to the? I guess it's the next two.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just going to go ahead and put the F is for femininity and M is for masculinity one together, because I feel like they reference.
Guess what's coming next?
Oh yay! Is it the anti-trans content? Oh
yeah. I'm actually, this is going to be a genuine question because I'm curious if your opinion on this has changed. So I don't need to read off the whole thing, but you say at the end of the one for femininity, if you want to be a tomboy, that's okay. Some girls aren't feminine. And then at the end of the masculinity one, you say if you're a boy and you don't want to be masculine, that's all right. So I'm curious if, because I was actually really surprised to read that. Are you, have you sort of like become more supportive of like trans and gender nonconforming people?
Wait, hopefully he wasn't, hopefully, is that a sarcastic comment? This is what they always say. This is like TERF rhetoric. That's not surprising at all. TERFs have been saying the exact goddamn thing for the past like 3 years. Like they always say that, but like if you transition, then that's wrong.
People in the last, at least since last time I heard you talk about that particular topic.
What does this book have to do with trans people? They're not mentioned at all in it.
Well, you specifically said that not all women have to be feminine, not all men have to be masculine. And I mean, gender nonconforming means you don't conform to traditional gender roles. That's what that's referencing, right?
You know, there are guys who are completely straight that act in feminine ways, or there are guys that are completely cis, so to speak, that aren't entirely masculine, and there are women that are completely cis and not transgender individuals that act like tomboys. I was a tomboy when growing up. Are you under the impression that being a tomboy makes you transgender?
No, absolutely not. But this is obviously
well, then how did
encompassed.
you read that from this?
So are you only referring to cisgendered people that are like straight and just happen to not really fall in?
I'm not bringing up the subject of transgenderism in a children's book. I'm completely against the idea of bringing transgender ideology onto children who are barely.
Ah, there we go.
Yeah.
Dog whistle, tough dog whistle there. You know, trans ideology on, bringing transgender ideology on to kids.
Yeah, well, the other thing is, they're oftentimes not fine with it, or at the very least not as fine as they would like to admit, because they have a limit, and that limit is they need to maintain biological essentialism, because if they stray too far from that, then they've moved into quote unquote transgender ideology or whatever. At least that's how they call, just trying to be yourself. If you're too different.
Really even starting to consider the fact of their own, what is, being a female and a male. I don't believe in bringing transgender ideology onto children at all. So this has nothing to do with that.
Why are you okay with putting cisgender ideology into that? I mean, in the very same passage you talk about...
Now, I'll give Xanderhal some credit there. That's a very good point.
Well,
you see, this reminds me of the whole. I remember not so long ago you'd have people say, "Well, I've got nothing against homosexuals, but I don't like them kissing in public." And let's go, "Well, you don't mind heterosexual couples kissing in public, yeah?" So it's the same argument.
well,
they don't have problems, imposing fucking cis ideology onto kids. So, what's the problem with talking about, trans stuff with kids?
Yeah.
And also, the point I will always fucking make to fucking transphobes and TERFs is, how many trans kids have you actually talked to?
Well, none.
Exactly. So what makes you a fucking expert, You're always going on and bleating on, what about the kids? What about the kids? Well, you don't talk to fucking trans kids, so what the fuck? How the fuck would you know? I was a trans kid, and because of you cunts fucking preventing me from fucking transitioning, it really fucked up my adolescence. It's a real trigger for me.
Yeah, that's what one of the people mentioned in chat. Turf 101. Think of the children unless you're a trans child, in which case it's a nightmare, like a slow motion car crash happening through puberty, which is true. I mean, that was why puberty was my first attempt at suicide. It was a really bad attempt, which I'm happy about.
Yeah. Anyways,
about how football and bravery and whatnot is masculine, mothers and princesses are feminine.
That's what masculine means. Teaching them words, femininity and masculinity, that's what these words mean.
Well, you just said you don't want the transgender ideology being taught to them, but this is, I guess you could say, the cisgender ideology.
Transgender ideology is a highly politicized subject that, when put on kids, can lead them to make all sorts of...
And who has politicized it, Lauren? It's been the fucking far right. It's been you lot. Right?
Yeah,
you're the ones who have politicized it.
Yeah,
it is us on the left who accept diversity, accept that people should be their true selves. Okay.
Well, yeah, I mean, a lot of conservatives and definitely alt-righters like this person, not Xanderhal, by the way. I'm talking about Lauren Southern, but yeah, it's they made science into a political statement.
Life-changing decisions, which they are not old enough to make yet, ones which can change their biology, make them infertile, lead to mass amounts of confusion, and quite frankly, in my opinion, I have a lot of love for people who are struggling with gender identity issues. I do. I have friends that are transgender. I have friends that...
Yeah. Yes, and the local racist has lots of black friends. Yeah, right.
Sorry, that's too good.
If trans people have Lauren Southern as a friend, they don't need fucking enemies.
I'm sure she does. So you said Lauren Southern is in Canada. I am at least
she's living in Australia.
Oh, she's living in Australia.
But she is from Canada, and you'll find out.
Yeah, no, I'm aware.
You'll find out later.
Low budget Blair White.
You'll find out later in the debate that she is definitely from Canada with the way she pronounces certain words. Anyways.
Of detransition, and it is not something that is fun. It is not fun thinking that you are, or being in the wrong body, however you want to portray it. It's not some joyous thing that you just say.
I have trans friends. By the way, they just think they have a problem. They don't know what they're doing.
What she's doing here is she's trying to basically say, the one about trans is stigma, yeah, it's a horrible stigma, yeah. I thought, yeah, gender dysphoria could be fucking traumatic. I can tell you, but it's far less traumatic if people accept you for who you are, for what you are. Yeah, and she seems to want to go. You see, this is the thing with true scummers and fucking turfs. They want to go back to having us marginalised and for us to go, oh god, being trans is fucking terrible, blah blah blah. No. Trans to me is about liberation. It's about emancipation.
Yeah, choose that. No, in a lot of ways, we should teach people to be comfortable in their own body and to embrace and love it. And if later on it turns out they are having issues with gender identity, that is not something you try to promote. It is an issue. It is a struggle to be born in the wrong body or have, body dysmorphia. That's not like I don't understand this idea that we should teach people to be happy with choosing to be transgender as if it's some choice. I choose to have body dysmorphia. Like, it's a really big struggle, which has high suicide rates, high rates.
People don't choose to be trans, but you're trying to make it into some horrible fucking sound like it's some horrible fucking disorder. As I say, yes, gender dysphoria can be traumatic. I don't deny that. It was for me, and it has been for a lot of other people. But one of the reasons it was so fucking traumatic is because people didn't accept me for what I am. Okay?
Yeah, but I mean, that was definitely a big factor. But also, I hate it. They always are like they don't want to bring it up as a separate term. They're like, it's body dysmorphia. No, it's not. It's not. Body dysmorphic disorder is a very specific thing related to completely other stuff, and we have psychological help for that. Stuff that would not work on me. None of that stuff would work. That's why those are different diagnoses. Yeah.
Rates of depression, even depression after surgery. It's to some degrees, and this is a debate I understand in the left.
Everyone has depression after surgery. That's like common. Any surgery you have, depression is common. Any surgery. That's just common in even surgeries that you enjoy later. Oftentimes, like, it's pretty common for depression for like a couple weeks to a month after surgery while things are still healing up.
And how this debate affects whether insurance claims will fund people's surgeries or not. But there is a debate as to whether this is a mental illness. There is a debate to the psychological impacts this has on people. This book is about...
So we're mentally ill, are we, Lauren?
Well, the thing is...
Great.
So here's the thing. They make that sort of statement, but that's how it originally started. That terminology is how it started in a lot of psychological handbooks, and they realized that there was only a particular way to actually treat and help people who had gender dysphoria. And because of that, they came to the conclusion, after doing a lot of fact searching, therapists came to the conclusion and understanding that it really didn't make sense to call it a psychological disorder. And because of that, we reached that conclusion. You don't just, it's not really a debate amongst therapists. It really isn't. It's a debate amongst people who don't know what the fuck they're talking about. You can make flat Earth debates. Those aren't real debates.
I know one of the people in the debate. I actually know them. I've actually met them. I'm not going to say who. Transitioning is the most empowering thing. Yep, it is. Anyways. Okay.
Basic concepts of life. And female and male, these two genders are literally how humanity has existed from the dawn of time. You can't reproduce without them both. And the idea of feminism...
Right. Wrong.
Yeah, no, wrong.
You see, this is often been the far right argument against gays and lesbians. Well, they don't reproduce. The human race would be dead if there was if everyone was gay and lesbian. have you heard of artificial insemination? You know.
Yeah, but
Blah-de,
also
blah-de,
that
blah.
would also there's no way with the population the size of it is for everyone to be anything. That's not going to happen ever. It's just not, and you can't make that argument. And also, like, the term hermaphrodite came because of Hermes and Aphrodite's child, who didn't fit into a supposed two-gender system, and that was like thousands of years ago. And they're acting like, oh, from the dawn of time, it's always been this one thing. I was like, no, there's 6 genders in Judaism. No, it's not like a thing to just be like, say it's just 2 all from the dawn of time.
Femininity and masculinity are 2 concepts which have existed for a very long time throughout history. And the only reason I'm bringing them up is, quite frankly, because society has demonized them in a lot of ways. And I'm trying to tell kids, actually, it's okay to be feminine and masculine.
All right. Okay, we got a lot to go over there because you brought a lot of things up, and I do want to acknowledge all of it. So, firstly, I understand that the issue of trans people is very, very politicized, right? There's a huge political debate about it. My opinions on this issue... Okay, sure. My opinions about transgender people are entirely backed by science, okay? I have done tons of research into this. If you want any of my sources or anything like that, I can provide them to you very happily in an instant, okay? So first of all, there are no kids that are being brainwashed into being transgender and engaging in some total body-changing, biologically irreversible thing that's happening to them.
That's false. That's false.
This is true.
Right now.
Oh, Christ, here she goes. She's dog whistling to turfs again.
Yeah.
No kid is being brainwashed into thinking they're fucking trans. How many more fucking times do we have to fucking say this?
Well, you see, any change is inherently permanent. Yes, I know all the science disagrees with me on this, but it's clearly must be permanent because I don't fucking know, because their hate boners are too large for them to think straight.
Yeah.
Within my own community in Canada, we've got family friends that are dealing with this. We've got family friends that are dealing with this in Canada with their daughter, who is 14 years old, who is currently trying to transition and go on hormones. And they told her, we love you, we support you, but we just want to wait until you're at an age, 18, the age you're allowed to drink, vote, all of these huge decisions.
Lauren, what age did you know that you were a woman? Right, you see, I knew
age 5. If we're age 4. If we're basing it off of
I knew I was
general psychological norms.
I knew I was a woman when I was 4 fucking years old, right?
Yeah.
And I was prevented from transitioning, right?
Yeah.
And that did irreparable harm to my fucking childhood, right?
Yeah.
This whole thing about you should wait until you're old enough. And but what happens is, I remember hearing that, also from people. But then when you get older, people go, "Are you really sure?" Blah blah blah. No one wants to fucking support you. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you're 18, then they're like, "Well, you don't know for sure until you're 25," and then when you're 25, they're like, "Oh, if you had known, you would have really buckled down on a decision earlier. So you must not actually know." It's just it's a no-win scenario because they just don't want there to be trans people, or they want it so that they feel like they can identify who is trans and who isn't.
Get tattoos. Just wait till then, because this is something that can affect your fertility. This is something that can affect your bone mass. This is something that can really affect your health. I have friends that have detransitioned that still can't afford the surgeries for their detransitioning, and it's totally...
Oh, of course you've got friends who've detransitioned. Let me tell you the facts about detransitioners. They're less than 2% of people who actually transition, right?
Yeah, and most...
and they get far too much...
retransition.
And yeah, that's a good, because I remember Rhea Cooper detransitioned and then retransitioned, and it was also Chelsea Atherley as well. those are two trans.
Yeah, the people who stay detransitioned is probably like less than 0.5% of anyone who transitions.
So this is just bullshit, and I just think that detransitions get way too much press. Okay, they get press because the press itself is transphobic.
Yeah, well, I mean, especially more so in the UK. In the US, I can't even think of a detransitioner in the US.
Oh, there is. I forgot the name, but there's one. They've got grey hair. They wear glasses, and they go on things like InfoWars and Fox News. I forgot what the fucking name is.
I don't know, and that those aren't necessarily the most major aspects of news media. So I mean, not everyone, but like everyone in the UK knows about the detransitioner who went on a court case to get rid of the ability to transition before a certain age.
At a certain age, they said, Canadian social services have come in and said, no, we will take your child away if you do not allow them to get this treatment. And this is something that's also just been documented. I've got a video on my channel about it, a more public case in the same province, British Columbia in Canada, where a man's child is transitioning and going through hormone treatment underage.
All right, hold on.
The states are not allowing him to oppose it.
I have a question. If you have a child who has manic depression and the doctors recommend that they get on antidepressants and the parents say, no, I don't want any of this for my kid, at least not until they're old enough, do you think it would be valid for the government to say, hey, if you're not going to give your kid what they need to deal with their mental health, then we're going to have to take them away from you because they're a danger. You're being a danger to them.
I hate when people compare depression, cancer, all these other things to transgenderism.
Well, it's absolutely comparable.
Well, you don't like the fact that gender dysphoria is a condition which needs to be treated, like having a kidney disorder,
also
or like having cancer. And that's you, Lauren, seem to think it's a lifestyle choice. It's not. Okay.
Well, the thing is, they always move the goalpost to, this is experimental treatment, and I think I know which person they're talking about. I think the person that she's probably talking about making a video would be if that one kid who had the transphobic father that wouldn't let her transition at all, or just like any sort of transition. If she's going on puberty blockers or whatnot, Lauren Southern would probably make it out to be like a bigger thing. But that's just my guess. I mean, I suppose I could look it up. I suppose I might be looking it up right now, but come on.
Because we can see with all data.
If someone chooses to identify as depressed or detransitions from being depressed later.
Well, no one chooses to have gender dysphoria.
But people are detransitioning. That's the point.
Very few.
Choose to have gender. No, that's not
very
true.
Few.
I don't think people choose to have depression or gender dysphoria, but no one is detransitioning from having cancer. No one is detransitioning from having depression. Simply the fact of people detransitioning means we have to be very careful and very.
A lot of women regret having to have their breasts removed because of breast cancer.
Well, the other thing is people. So, depression is not something. Depression doesn't have signs; it just has symptoms. And because of this, people can, some people stop taking antidepressants because they think they're okay, and then they have relapses into depression oftentimes. But so in that sense, people are like, accept their depression and then, say that they're not depressed later. Like that does happen. And there, in no way is there a lot of people, and I don't know which
who we allow to take these treatments, and children who, quite frankly, have they do not have established ideas about who they are and what they want in life yet. I think about tattoos I wanted even when I was 17, 18 that I look back.
Oh, for fuck's sake! Oh, I've heard this one before. Oh, comparing gender reassignment to fucking getting a tattoo. No, it's fucking not. And most people do know what they are by the time they're 4 or 5 years old. Okay. fuck's sake.
Back at, I'm like, oh my gosh. Or even I think of identities I had as a young child, thinking that, we're a dog. My sister and I used to dress up as boys and go to the skate park and have fun pretending to be boys.
Wait, hold on for a second.
Oh, for fuck's sake. Oh, God. Fucking sake, it's got nothing to do with the way, it's not about the way you fucking dress. Fuck's sake. It's not fucking, make fucking believe. It's not playing doctors and fucking nurses. It's not, fuck's sake.
Okay, hold on. I feel like we're moving off from just let me finish what I was about to say, okay? So in the overwhelming amount of data, it has been shown that if a trans person is allowed to transition and they have gender dysphoria and they have the support of at least one family member, their likelihood of attempting or committing suicide drops significantly.
True. That's
true. I think by the way, I did find the thing. It was essentially a Canadian man violated a court order that banned him from speaking publicly about his son's gender transition. So he misgendered his son as a different gender. So
it is very similar to depression. You also said nobody chooses to detransition from cancer. Tons of people have regret whenever they go through treatment for cancer. Getting chemotherapy and radiation is miserable. A lot of people get bullied into it by their families because their families don't want to see them gone. I'd say there's probably a higher amount of people who regret, per capita, who regret getting treatment for cancer because of how terrible the side effects are than there are people who willingly get hormones to transition or go through any other surgeries they would go through and then end up regretting that.
So clearly we need to take these processes very seriously.
It is taken seriously.
The thing is, there has not been a wide range of research done on transitioning, especially amongst.
There's been a shit ton.
Yeah, there has been. So the DSM-3 brings up gender dysphoria, although it refers to it as gender identity disorder. I believe. No. Wait. Fuck. I think it might have been transsexual something. I think is how it's brought up in the DSM-3. But that was like 1970, so that was 50 years ago. The DSM-3, and that's just the DSM-3. There was stuff that Nazis did. There was stuff against trans people who are trans, and there was some research destroyed. The early 1900s, people got gender confirmed. There's at least one person who got gender confirming surgery. Early in the early part of the 20th century, and it's just bullshit.
So you're saying there's been a wide range of research amongst underage people getting surgery and transitioning medically when it's just now being brought to the surface.
It's not just now being brought to the surface.
You're saying we have research over 5-10 years that shows the impacts of getting medical treatment as a child when they grow up. You're saying that exists right now in a large level.
The reason why you don't think it has...
just recently being brought forward.
Yeah, I'll elaborate in a moment, but I want to say this first. The reason why you don't think it has is because this issue has only become extremely politicized very recently. But nobody is advocating, nobody with any actual credibility or any power is actually advocating for giving kids hormones. Now, you probably mix these up. A lot of people do. What's been advocated for and what has been tested and verified to be safe are hormone blockers. The point of hormone blockers is if you have a kid who has gender dysphoria or who thinks they might be trans, you have them visit a designated healthcare professional, usually their pediatrician, who will refer them to a therapist, and that therapist will figure out whether or not it is very likely they have gender dysphoria. Now, there's a huge issue. With a lot of trans people, it becomes a lot harder later in life for you to transition if you've gone through, let's say you're a trans woman, you are now in your 20s, and you are now finally able to get hormones and start transitioning because you are fully let go of the reins, right? But you've gone through a male puberty. It is a lot harder for you now to go through that process to achieve the body that you want to achieve because you went through the wrong puberty.
Yeah, I can testify to that.
There's definitely facts behind that, and there's been like 30 or 40 I feel like if I recall correctly, there's been like at least 30 years of research on hormone blockers. So
yeah.
Now, puberty blockers are safe to give to kids that are, coming out of prepubescence into puberty, and it's been found that there are no negative side effects. These same hormone blockers have been used on kids that are not transgender when they have thyroid issues or other issues that require them, and they've been found to be overwhelmingly safe. I believe it was found that they are more safe than ear infection medication, which we give kids all the time when they go swimming in the pool and they get pee in their ear when they're swimming around.
I want to concede something right now.
All right.
You're actually right. There has been a decent amount of research done on people post reassignment surgery. and I just had someone send it to me actually. The most thorough follow-up of sex reassigned people research extending over 30 years and conducted in Sweden, where the culture is strongly supportive of transgender individuals, documents their lifelong mental unrest. 10 to 15 years after surgical reassignment, the suicide rate of those who had undergone sex reassignment surgery rose to 20 times that of comparable peers.
Is this the is this by ncbi.nlm.nhi.gov?
Not that I can see here, no.
Can you link it to me?
This is something I've heard before from other studies, but I just wanted to make sure.
No, see, like, I know that,
yeah,
for one thing, I think she misquoted,
I'm sending it to you on Twitter.
Xanderhal probably bring that
I
up.
don't know how Discord works.
But, yeah, this is just...
Yep, I've seen this one. So I've actually seen this study plenty, and it's been debunked overwhelmingly. So for starters,
so it doesn't agree with you, so it's been debunked.
No, you know what? Do you know who was actually? Do you know who was actually polled by this? Do you know who was actually polled in this study?
Who was polled by this?
This study polled parents, not the actual children, and those polls were taken online based on, and there was no like going to people's homes visiting parents. It was completely online. It was an online survey. It wasn't an actual.
Yeah, and I'm sure an online survey which TERFs helped to manipulate, and I know that this report which Lauren Southern got was from a TERF website. So.
Yeah.
Like well-conducted study. It was terrible data collection.
I'm reading the methods right now. It contains discharge diagnosis, up to 7 contributory diagnoses. Wait, 1 minute, sorry. Never mind. So it's got national registers.
It says right there, parents, not children.
That particular study has become a laughingstock among much of the scientific community. I've seen it a million times.
I'm not going to take your word at it, because you were just telling me that you have a bunch of studies that show people's suicide rates drop. You can go pick those up while I'm reading how this was done.
Absolutely.
Yeah. There are studies. There's I can think of one off the top of my head, but it wouldn't surprise me if there's more by now. But naturally, those will get dismissed. Oh my god, I almost feel like this part needs to be fast-forwarded. Them looking for ways to describe study stuff. Let's just have a nice, quiet
I'm not
bit
seeing anything in here about it being an online study. If anything, it's suggesting that they were interviewing people. And
it was a survey that was taken online. And it was also extremely biased. I didn't want to bring this one up because I don't know how much you would agree. But the survey, I believe, was hosted on a very well-known like anti-trans website as well. And there was no strong verification to determine whether or not the people taking the surveys were like real. And it was also meant to survey parents, not the actual trans people. I just sent you one of many studies that
yeah. If you're gonna carry out a fucking investigation, research, whatever, into trans stuff, how about asking trans people? Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of makes sense to me.
Validate that. Here's a good one here. I can send this one as well. Most notably, strong parental support decreases the likelihood of a suicide attempt within in the past year from 57% to just 4%. That is a massive decrease in the likelihood of suicide for an individual who's transgender who has family support. The data seems to overwhelmingly suggest that support from a family member or a friend.
Now, is this studied adults or children?
This study. No, it's the right one. Hold on. Someone messaged me. This study specifically, here, I can actually check right here. Analysis.
That's the thing. I am open to hearing this kind of stuff, but the research that I have personally seen and the research that...
She's open to hearing this sort of stuff. It's not just about that you hear it. You need to take it on board, Lauren, and basically accept that the research says it is better to stage an intervention with someone who is trans when they are young. Okay?
Yeah.
And, I can testify from my own life, it is very painful for me that preventing me from transitioning really has had a detrimental effect on my life. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways.
That, I've seen over the years, as I've gone over this topic, it's not something I'm particularly into right now and researching right now, has been highly negative towards the surgeries. If that's changed, if you have proof that it's different, I'm willing to consider that and look at that. But this is certainly not the topic I came on here to talk about. You've been dragging me down rabbit holes of subjects that are not even contained in this book every single time.
Again, plug my book. I just want to talk about my book. I don't want to talk about, why am I... Sorry, I get like this, don't I? I start stuttering. Yeah, it's just
Well,
about. It's just
yeah,
about.
I mean,
She doesn't want to talk about the real. She doesn't want to talk about the issues where basically she has been found out to be spouting bigoted bullshit, unfounded bigoted bullshit at that.
Yeah.
Time you bring up a phone.
I apologize. Listen, I'm very eager. I'm very excited. I'm having a good time. I'm sorry if I get a little bit overzealous, but I felt like perhaps there was a reference there to trans people because you talk about essentially gender non-conforming people.
Not even a little bit.
Okay, cool.
It's not gender. It's just they're. If you are a guy who isn't necessarily like super masculine, maybe you like your craft beers and art instead. I wouldn't consider him gender non-conforming.
Oh.
That seems.
Oh.
Wait.
So is she saying she has a problem if a cis guy decides he enjoys wearing dresses? Is that too far into femininity for her for that to be acceptable?
She seems to think a guy into craft beers is feminine.
Yeah, also,
What?
how the fuck is that feminine? That's like the most masculine, stereotypically masculine thing at all. Does she mix up masculine and feminine? Is this why she thinks that trans people
That's what
are
it refers
cis?
to. The idea is that you typically don't conform to most gender roles. Like, have you ever heard of a femboy?
I've heard of your catboy femboys. Yes, I have.
Yeah, like femboys can be cisgender, but that doesn't mean they're gay or not. Well, it doesn't mean they're trans or gay or anything like that. They can be totally straight, but they like to wear the thigh high socks and the shortcut little shorts and everything, and they just dress very feminine.
Sure, and I don't care. I don't care. The point of this poem was to say, if you want to be feminine, you can be feminine. If you want to be masculine, you can be masculine. There are a lot of aspects of today's culture that, would you agree, kind of reject and demonize traditional femininity and masculinity?
Perhaps,
only
yeah,
if it harms people. Only if it harms people. So a lot of the concern is due to the fact that a lot of culturally masculine things are stuff like war, killing people, being in absolute control of things, men making decisions and women having stuff happen to them, women being housemakers, that sort of stuff. These are, well, I mean, being a homemaker isn't inherently harmful. Some of these things are only harmful if they're forced upon you, and some of these things are just bad. I mean, there's a reason it's toxic masculinity, because a lot of the masculine aspects of culture are the aspects, or sorry, not even a lot of masculine aspects. There's a lot of good masculine aspects. There are toxic masculine aspects, like killing and that sort of thing.
I have plenty of people like that.
Yeah, so it's like, for example, this is a bit of a random one, but the other day I was on YouTube. I was on the YouTubes, and I was watching this deep dive analysis of High School Musical's Sharpay, and how she's actually the victim in the story, but it was a time, and I remember this when I was growing up, the idea of being traditionally feminine was really demonized. Like, you wanted to be a tomboy, you wanted to be the girl that dressed a little more plain and was the girl next door, because all of the girls in movies that were super feminine were demonized. There was the fact that she wore pink skirts, the fact that she had the little dog with her, she had the long blonde hair, she just loved everything sparkly, and constantly in the show, they would mock that and make her the villain for having these super, just quite frankly, feminine tropes about her. And, you can even see this with the bimbo movement on TikTok, where you have girls saying, hey, if I want to walk around and be like Legally Blonde, if I want to be a bit of a bimbo, why are you guys rejecting and saying that can't be my aesthetic? Why are you people saying that that's wrong or bad? So I think that, I was just kind of making a point to touch on, if you want to fall into this, that's okay. That's it. It's not a highly politicized point saying you have to be feminine as a woman. It's saying there's been some pushback in our culture against traditional femininity and masculinity in kids. It's okay to be these things. That's fine. And once again, I don't think you disagree with that. So you tried to make this a debate about transgenderism, a topic which I will admit I am not particularly well versed in. I'm not going to pretend.
Well, you see, exactly. You're not an expert, are you? That's definitely, evident, Doran.
Yeah,
but you do seem to have a lot to say about it.
Yeah, and also there are aspects of things. Sometimes there's a culture associated with what counts as true femininity, because there's a culture of rich, and a lot of times rich and hyper feminine for women gets meshed together, and similarly, rich and men is just its own complicated mess, but it's usually a bit more obvious that they're talking about the rich fuckmate.
So what are people saying in the chat about this?
Musicals, she will be saying Light on Our Feet next. She had to lay low because of New Zealand. You know when you see some poor soul having a breakdown in public? This feels like that. It's kind of sad hearing her speak. Also, Aldi Little would be a good name for a Nazi. Xanderhal also only looks at his own website's chat, which is sycophantic, when he should look at other chats, YouTube, etc. Why Lauren Southern so obsessed with trans issues? Why not inject the same energy into childhood leukemia instead? It's very telling.
That's a good point. But also the point about that Xanderhal wanting only sycophants. That's true. You found that out because he blocked you on Twitter.
Yeah, well, I mean, I thought it was funny because it's not like I went into like a whole breakdown. I just made a video making fun of him, and he clearly couldn't laugh at that because it was a terrible debate.
Mind you got blocked on Twitter for a lot less with Caitlin Bennett, who's similar to Lauren Southern, though I would say actually probably more annoying in some ways, for just asking a question.
Oh, you're talking about there is that. I've been blocked by a lot of people. I seem to put I seem to have upset some people who I mean, if I was a bit harsher, I would just call them right-wing and left-wing snowflakes, but
be harsher. Well, be harsher. Call them that.
Also, someone brought up his obsession with shoe on head.
Oh, that's Volsh's obsession.
No, it's Xanderhal's too.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah, that was what the whole debate with Dusty was about, and then right after it, he went and talked with shoe on head.
Oh yeah, of course. Sorry, all I remember about the debate between Xanderhal and Dusty was that he was accusing Dusty of making millions from a porn site, which was just completely...
Well, no, the accusation was that Dusty was exploiting sex workers through that porn site, and then Dusty immediately broke down what he did. He mentioned that he's got like a whole book explaining what he did.
Yeah.
And then Xanderhal caved because Xanderhal didn't do any actual research.
Yeah.
But
and
then Dusty was like, "You should probably take that video down since you're spreading inaccurate information." And naturally, it's still up there. And Xanderhal never put up a shortened version of the debate, or just the debate part of that whole stream, which he usually does in debates he wins, or at the very least he feels like he wins.
I also remember about that debate. One of the last things which was discussed was Xanderhal seemed to have a bit of an issue with the fact that Dusty thinks that YouTubers should help spread the wealth. And it's kind of like, well, hold on, you're on the left. The whole thing about the left is spreading the wealth. And, Xanderhal didn't seem to like that.
Well,
which tells you something about Xanderhal. So, anyways,
Well, I mean,
no. Look, we're getting off the subject, but I'm just saying that's just a past experience we've had with Xanderhal.
Well, yeah, no,
Anyways,
agree. I was just going to bring up.
Let's get on with this, okay?
I see how
I know
it
all
is.
those things. I don't. Yes, on surface, it's not something I think is good to put on kids. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but that's not what I came on here to debate you about, and that's not a point I was making in this book. You've got a very neat trick of making every single poem in here and every single topic in here about a topic you want to debate me on that I'm not talking about.
But don't you think that if I wrote a book that was very similar to this, and I wrote it's okay for you to identify however you like, you don't have to be masculine, you don't have to be feminine, knowing my takes on these issues, would you not think that perhaps I was alluding to it being okay to be transgender, even if you're a kid?
If that's all you were saying, I wouldn't care.
That it's okay to be trans as a kid?
If you were writing it's okay to be trans as a kid, that would be a highly politicized point, the same way that if I were writing, you have to be feminine. We know these are politicized arguments. There's almost no one in the right-wing sphere or conservative sphere of politics that are saying kids should be transgender and should be taught transgender politics. And there's almost no one in the left-wing, more progressive realm of politics that is saying all men have to be masculine and all men have to be feminine. So I'm not saying either politicized side of things.
Okay. Do you want to move on to G? This one's a bit faster. I'm just curious what your thoughts are on this. So G is for groupthink. It's easy to accept what those in crowds believe. But if they're wrong, it means more people who will grieve. History has told us that folks are often led to throwing out their reason and trusting mobs instead. Groupthink is a nasty and quite well-hidden trap. When you first step in it, you might not feel it snap. It's not that it's wrong to trust in other people, but think for yourself so you don't follow them to evil. So what did you mean by that?
I really like to think you don't have a problem with that.
No,
I really like to think
I don't necessarily. I'm just curious what your thoughts are on it.
If a group of people tell you to jump off a bridge, don't just jump off a bridge because the group's telling you to do that. If there's a bunch of people on a political bandwagon, whether it be political or social, don't just do something because lots of people are doing it. Think for yourself. Maybe they're all doing it for good reasons, but sometimes crowds do things for bad reasons.
Okay.
It's that simple.
Would it be presumptuous of me to, or perhaps overbearing of me to ask if you have any examples of like a political bandwagon that you've seen people jump on?
Any sort of totalitarian bandwagon in history, Nazism, communism. I'd even suggest the MAGA movement. Don't join.
See, I told you you'd find out that she's Canadian. She can't pronounce MAGA.
Oh.
Mega. That's what she says. That shows up she's Canadian.
Yeah. I weirdly didn't think about that particular aspect of Canadian accents.
Well, she hasn't. I haven't heard her say a bolt yet.
That's a particular part of Canada.
Yeah.
That's not all of Canada. Although there are only like 3 major cities, I feel like, in Canada.
Right, folks, you heard it there first. Yeah. Yeah, your neighbour one of your neighbours to the south thinks that there's only 3 major cities in Canada. And what will those cities be?
Well, the capital's one of them.
What would the capital be?
Fuck.
It's Ottawa. Right?
Okay. There's Ottawa. There's the one in the island area to the west of Canada. I'm doing terribly with names.
That's Vancouver.
Vancouver and Ottawa, Vancouver, and shit. I can't remember the other one. Toronto. Yeah, those 3 cities.
There's also Quebec, Halifax.
Quebec's pretty small, though.
No, Quebec City. I think you'll find it's quite big, actually. And you also have Calgary, Hamilton. Christ, I know more.
I forgot about Calgary and
how,
but those are
those
are like cities with only 1 million people in them.
How many people live in Minneapolis? I think it's about 500,000. Sorry, what was that? They only have 1 million. Well, Minneapolis, and how far is Minneapolis from the Canadian border? It's about 4-hour car journey.
Okay. Fine. There are 10 big cities.
Yep, we always knew that Americans are crap at geography.
Hey, at least I understood some of the geography.
I've just proved that point. Anyways, which has got nothing to do with this debate, but yeah.
No, it doesn't.
Well, there you are. All right.
Make a movement just because it looks exciting and lots of your friends are wearing red hats. Think about it. Think about whether you support the policies. Think about what you really believe deep down. Black Lives Matter. Don't go protest with them unless you understand why you're doing it, unless you understand the cause behind it. And maybe at the end of the day you decide you do want to join that. Maybe at the end of the day you think it is for a good reason, but don't just do it because all your friends are going there, or because it seems like everyone's doing it on Twitter and Instagram and celebrities have told you it's good.
Okay, yeah, I don't disagree with that. I feel like a lot of people, especially nowadays, tend to perhaps stop thinking as much and maybe join into a group that they feel comfortable in and sort of they're looking.
People are always looking for a crowd to join. They're always looking to belong to a group. That's kind of part of being human, I guess. Anyways, I'm going to fast forward to, well, most of this group thingy. It goes on for a while. They get to talk about the Capitol riots, but that's a lot later on, and I remember, yeah, it's around here. So we're going to pick up the debate here.
An insurrection, even though he tweeted something that some people would interpret as, well, I guess this is what happens when you rig an election, and for saying that the election was rigged. And also, even though he posted after, go home in peace and don't behave this way. But we know for ages, tons of Democrats have accused the Russians of stealing elections. They've accused Trump of being an invalid president. We've seen Colin Kaepernick come out and say support rioting and not get banned off Twitter. So this has been this application of banning people for apparently or potentially supporting riots and for saying elections are rigged. It's only used one way very often.
Lauren,
I didn't see a single person being banned for saying Russians stole the election.
So Lauren, I have bad news. You have stepped on my trap card. So Trump's banning was because, for one, he alleged that he repeatedly, over the course a long period of time, alleged that he won the election. Not that, something might have happened, that he won the election, the Democrats stole it, it was illegal, and when he said, stand back and stand by, you can interpret that however you like, but even once this insurrection happened at the Capitol, he said, you're very special, I appreciate that you did this, but this is what happens when you steal the election. This is why he got banned. A lot of people saw it. He obviously broke tons of other TOS.
That's what I said.
On top of that, what was the other thing that you brought up after the Trump thing?
I said stolen election and riots.
Oh, yes.
I mentioned both things you're mentioning slightly differently.
So you argue that it was slanderous for the Democrats to argue, or for like the mainstream media Democrats.
I didn't say slanderous. I said they too.
Or it was the same thing. It was comparable.
Elections were illegitimate, which is why people are getting banned for saying the election results were illegitimate.
They investigated this, and they found that Russiagate. It wasn't Trump colluding, but it was Trump's administration and the Republican Party colluded with Russia to leak those things about the Democrats to help him in the election. There was collusion found. There were prosecutions that happened with this. The court documents are completely available.
So I completely disagree with that analysis of the Mueller report. But way before that, before there was any investigations and any conclusion to investigations, people were saying Russians stole the election, and they weren't getting banned.
Because it had already been found that the Russians were paying for ads on things like Facebook, that the Russians were working to help get Trump elected. That had already been found.
So now we've
the collusion was the part that had to be proven.
So now we've discovered that CNN was working to get Biden into office. Is that election stolen? Can I now say the election was stolen by CNN?
And
what?
Of course, yeah, she thinks that CNN were basically colluding with the Democrats to basically help Biden win the election. I'm
sure the Jews somehow worked their way somewhere into that argument.
But also, so Fox News weren't helping the Republicans, of course. No, that never happens, does it?
Yeah, I mean, Trump didn't have to pay for ads during the 2016 election, and got plenty of views through New York. Wow, Fox News, CNN, MSNBC, like all these people.
But the point is, she's complaining that CNN had a bias towards the Democrats, right? And it's like, well, Fox News have a bias against, towards the GOP. Yeah.
Yeah.
What a fucking...
Also...
if she's going to complain about, one news channel having a bias, she should complain about all news channels having bias. I mean, it's pretty fucking evident that MSNBC, who they support, the Democrats, by the way.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But that's because of Bill Gates.
And not get banned?
Did CNN hack the RNC to leak information about Trump?
No, they said they controlled the minds of the people with propaganda to try to get Trump out of office. Can I say that the election was stolen by CNN now without getting banned?
I don't think that's comparable, no. I don't think that's comparable to leaking information from the party.
You're saying that because Russians bought bots to spread information, that's stealing an election, but I can't say when CNN openly says
the reason why you heard people say...
one of the largest platforms in America to try to spread propaganda to get Trump out of office. That isn't the same.
The reason why
Facebook is a larger platform than CNN.
And Mark Zuckerberg rang Trump to congratulate him on winning in 2016. Yeah.
Random libs on Twitter saying that the election was hacked by the Russians was because it had already been revealed that the Russians were spreading misinformation on platforms to try to get Trump elected. That's where that came from. The Democrats did not try to overturn the election. It was nowhere near comparable to what the Republicans did after Biden won the election. And the reason why now Russiagate ended up being true was because after all the investigations, they found that, yes, Trump's administration, the Republican Party, worked with the Russians to hack the DNC and spread that stuff, the emails about Hillary, to help get Trump elected. That's what was found. There was collusion. It wasn't between Trump and the Russians, to be fair. That's why Trump didn't get in any trouble legally for it. However, people in Trump's administration and people that Trump worked with did, because there was collusion. It was found. The court documents are there. You can look them up.
Let me ask you, how much money do you know how much money the Russians spent on ads?
I have no clue. No, not off the top of my head.
Okay, it wasn't even a fraction. Not even a slight fraction of what Biden spent on the election, or even what CNN would spend on a couple days of media. They spent $100,000 on Facebook ads. And you're trying to allege that that's comparable to CNN spending 4 years of primetime TV trying to get their candidate elected? That's not even remotely comparable.
Why are you going back to...
Well, CNN are free to do so. Lauren, I'll just remind you that in America there's this thing called the First Amendment, and it guarantees, freedom of the press. And thanks to Ronald Reagan... there's not the fairness doctrine anymore. So, news channels are free to basically be as biased as they fucking want to be. Why?
Well, also, it wasn't 4 years. Biden didn't start really doing much with regards to running until 2 years before the election. No channel supports any person's election-related stuff 4 years before an election. Nobody.
People, I'm not talking about. Holy shit! I'm sorry. I'm getting a little bit frustrated. But I'm gonna try to keep my cool. Okay. Why do you keep going back to comparing what came out from the Mueller investigation and the numerous investigations that were done by the U.S. government to find out whether or not there was collusion between Trump's administration, and his election.
You just admitted there was no collusion between Trump and the Russians. You were saying
Trump's administration, and his running party.
So what was the exact thing that the Russians did that won Trump the election?
The Republican Party and Trump's administration, not Trump, people in Trump's administration worked with the Russians to hack the DNC to leak those emails from Hillary's private server.
So Hillary was doing illegal things, and that got exposed.
That's still collusion with the Russians. That's where the collusion thing came from.
Okay, so Hillary was.
Wait, I'm not trying to argue in favor of Hillary here. The election was back in 2016. I'm not trying to argue that. That's collusion.
So you're saying people having access to more information, real legitimate information about what the other candidate was doing won Trump the election. Okay.
Wait, people went to jail for colluding with the Russians for this. We're colluding with an enemy country to hack into a government party in our...
Lawrence seems to think that two wrongs make a right. But
yeah,
I'm not denying that Hillary wasn't up to no good. We know about we know that Bernie was stitched up in the primaries. We know that, okay. But the point is that it is still illegal to hack up fucking emails. Okay. If you get that information illegally, right, it's still illegal.
Country. It's not our country, but in America, an enemy country, they colluded with another country. This is treason to leak information on another party. That's where Russiagate came from. That was what came of it. There were convictions. You could look it up. The court documents are public.
Sophia, your PayPal link is broken.
My PayPal link is broken.
Yeah.
Who was trying to donate?
HK.
Hold on a minute, HK. I'll get. Oh no, actually, I don't want to do it on this one. I'll get you the link. Okay. Hold on a second.
Ooh. Yeah, and yeah. Well, you can link it in chat.
Yeah, that's what I'm about to do. Hold on. Right.
Okay. Okay, we'll have the link up in a second. Thank you so much, by the way, HK.
What the fuck was that?
What? Oh, sorry, that was my. I moved my knee and it bounced against. So there's a pull-up part to this desk, and that's where my keyboard is. So my knee hit that when moving my leg to the right, and it's not anything that hurt. It's just.
Okay, tell me if that. Check it if he says that works.
Yeah.
Some redacted stuff because for national security, but it is completely available there. This isn't a secret.
Okay, fine, and it's also not a secret that, and that's why I don't think that people should have been banned. I'm not arguing that people should have been banned from Twitter or Facebook for talking about Russian collusion. I have never argued that once. You guys, on the progressive side of things, Democrats, big tech, are arguing that people shouldn't be allowed to talk about potential problems with the election that Biden won. No one has argued that people should be censored for talking about potential collusion with the Trump-Hillary election. It's only one side arguing there should be censorship. Well, I'm saying there is legitimate information showing CNN colluded to try to get Trump out of office, and you're not taking any of that seriously, and you are still supporting censorship of people who want to talk about it.
My concern isn't people.
CNN didn't collude. CNN made it, if it's true, and I don't think it is, that CNN, decided if it was going to back the Democrats, that's a decision for the, Ted Turner and the editors or at CNN. That's their decision. There's no big fucking conspiracy, Lauren. Jeez.
People who want to talk about it, I'm talking about it right now. My problem is when people deliberately spread misinformation. There were people on the right, on these platforms, that were saying the election was stolen. There was no evidence, no concrete evidence whatsoever that's been found that hasn't been debunked about there being, that the Democrats stole the election, that Biden stole the election. There's no evidence whatsoever. It is completely unsubstantiated. And that rhetoric goaded conservatives into doing what they did at the Capitol. On the 6th.
So you don't think rhetoric of saying that Trump stole the election and that it was all the Russians that did it, which I do not agree. I don't think it was all.
I don't think it was all the Russians, but I think they.
You don't think that rhetoric can cause riots and cause disorder, which it did. I was there. I was at the riots that occurred and destroyed massive.
Oh, funny that Lauren Southern would have been at the Capitol riots, don't you think?
Well, no, wait. I thought she was talking about the 2016 election.
Oh, right. Misunderstood.
Various abuses.
Yeah, she was saying
went into office on in operation, and surprisingly, no one talked about that much. And the problem I don't have with it. I don't have.
But the difference is that the left was right.
Misinformation. I don't have a problem with. Oh, so the left were right to do that. They were right to destroy DC and destroy people's businesses.
They were right about Russian collusion.
Okay, so why were people banned right away before any investigation had properly taken place? And you know what? It looks like Trump supporters were right that there was some form of rigging as well, which is with CNN propaganda.
That's not what rigging is. We're talking about collusion, not rigging.
So,
when it comes to nobody argued the election was rigged.
The Russians stole the election.
Nobody with any credibility argued that the Russians hacked into the election, like for sure. Nobody argued that. There were like random people on Twitter and Facebook, but we're talking about something that was confirmed by an investigation by the government. And something with no evidence.
There is an inconsistent application of the TOS, and we know that. They say they ban people for talking about people stealing elections when they are. And they say they ban people when they talk about starting violence. Let's look at a more solid example here instead of arguing the nuances of the Mueller report. Colin Kaepernick directly supported a revolution and violence against the government and has not been banned from Twitter. So you can agree with his support of that revolution, you can agree with his support of that violence, but that's
what the fuck is she talking about? What the fuck is she talking about? I legit don't know. I know people are bitching about Colin Kaepernick, but I feel like it wasn't. I seriously doubt it was anywhere near what was mentioned.
Fuck. By the way, I won't say too much, but thank you, HK. Okay. Thank you for that.
That's awesome. And
yeah.
I always support things that support Sophia.
I don't even know who Colin Kaepernick is. So.
He's an NFL player. He said he just made some political statements. Whereas
rugby for wimps.
It's fucking kneeling down. That's not asking for a revolution. Kneeling down during the fucking national anthem. Oh, god damn it. Wait, what the fuck? How the fuck should she say this? But I'm sorry, I can't believe it took me this long. It's probably because I don't watch NFL. No, Colin Kaepernick was the kneel during the Pledge of Allegiance guy. That's not anything close to that. He was very support our troops. He kneeled because he wanted to be respectful. But he wanted to point out that racism is still a thing.
Yeah.
That's all that was. That wasn't like inciting a revolution. That was just kneeling during an anthem and protesting some sort of fucking violence shit.
What I'm saying here, which is there is an inconsistent application of the TOS.
So Colin Kaepernick's statement was, when civility leads to death, revolting is the only logical reaction. He said on Instagram and Twitter, the cries for peace will rain down, and when they do, they will land on deaf ears because your violence has brought this resistance. Wait.
That's almost identical to what Trump...
No, it's fucking not.
No, it's not.
That's not, and that's not inciting fucking violence.
Yeah,
That's just saying when people, aren't listened to, and are being, violently oppressed, they will lash out. Now, that's not inciting violence. That's just commentating, giving an opinion about the situation and possible, the possible response to it.
Was saying.
Yeah.
That's not even close to what Trump was saying.
Trump was saying, the only thing is he's directly saying we have to fight back, where Trump was saying this is what happens when you rig an election. And once again, people would disagree.
No. Oh my God, no. That's not saying that will directly fight back. That's saying that if nothing is done, people will fight people will fight for their rights. People will fight against this physically if nothing gets done. It's essentially saying, do something because I'm trying my best to make it peaceful, but if it keeps going on, it's not going to be peaceful anymore. That's all Colin Kaepernick was going to say, or was saying. That's what that quote is saying. So, like, I don't... no, Lauren Southern is very wrong. Sorry.
That civility leads to death. And people would disagree with Trump that the election was rigged.
Wait, so you think that him saying that people fighting for civil rights and Trump lying about the election being stolen because he's salty, and then those people proceeding to go to the Capitol and try to break in, which, by the way, they're all getting arrested. Their identities are being collected by the government. They're being arrested.
Crazy to me that
Do you think these are comparable?
Current rioting going on in Portland. And
of course they're focusing on that. It was an insurrection attempt.
People who have taken over doesn't...
Right, okay, Lauren, okay. People in Portland are protesting against police brutality and, the violation of human rights, okay? The people who rioted at the Capitol were trying to cause a fucking insurrection. They were trying to overthrow the government on the say-so of their messianic fucking leader, Trump.
So Oakland riots, which I think was what she referenced earlier, 3 injuries, 30 arrests.
Any deaths?
No.
How many people were killed at the Capitol riots? Was it 6?
I can't remember. I know there's a police officer killed by someone.
There was also.
There's the amusing death of that one woman with the "Don't tread on me" thing who got trampled to death.
Yeah, and her last words were, "There's nothing can stop." Yeah.
But yeah, no. This was like a 3-day protest in Oakland, California.
But I do think there's a difference. There's a difference. There's a difference when people are protesting against oppression, to those who are basically rioting for there to be oppression. Yeah, there is a difference. You see, the thing is, right? You get these fucking fence-sitting centrists go, both sides would balance one another. Right, okay. So let me think. The left want to support me, having a life, right? The fascists want to take my life away. There isn't any choice in that one. Okay?
Well, there's not a good choice.
No, I do see a clear difference.
Yeah.
Of federal buildings over the last year.
In other words, no one likes violent action, right?
Well, yeah, but riots are oh shit, right? I'm trying to remember the MLK quote. Damn it. Riots are the language of the unheard or something.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Who created their own autonomous radical zone called Chaz, in which multiple people died, and they're not searching for any of those people. I'm saying everyone.
Can you check that? That's the
what was it?
Seattle, wasn't
Portland,
it?
Oregon.
No, Seattle, wasn't it?
Oh, I thought. Oh, Seattle's Washington.
Yeah, I know, but there was some zone, anarchist zone, which was set up in the center of Seattle, if I remember rightly.
Skip back 10 seconds. I need to hear what she said.
Right.
Misinformation. I don't have a problem with. Oh, so the left were right to do that. They were right to destroy DC and destroy people's businesses.
They were right about Russian collusion.
Okay, so why were people banned right away before any investigation had properly taken place? And you know what? It looks like Trump supporters were right that there was some form of rigging as well, which is with CNN propaganda.
That's not what rigging is. We're talking about collusion, not rigging.
So,
when it comes to nobody argued.
Did she just say that CNN rigged the fucking election?
Yeah, through propaganda.
Well, I guess it's better than Hugo Chavez or the Kraken.
Well, also, that's not what rigging is.
Yeah.
Anyways, go on.
They argued the election was rigged.
The Russians stole the election.
Nobody with any credibility argued that the Russians hacked into the election, for sure. Nobody argued that. There were random people on Twitter and Facebook, but we're talking about something that was confirmed by an investigation by the government. And something with no evidence.
There is an inconsistent application of the TOS, and we know that. They say they ban people for talking about people stealing elections when they are, and they say they ban people when they talk about starting violence. Let's look at a more solid example here instead of arguing the nuances of the Mueller report. Colin Kaepernick directly supported a revolution and violence against the government and has not been banned from Twitter. So you could agree. A more solid example here instead of arguing the nuances of the Mueller report.
Trump said, I love you, you're very special, but this is what, you all need to go home, you're very special, you're my beautiful little pog champs, but this is what happens when you steal the election from me, by the way.
So the difference, right?
So you skipped ahead.
Is Trump said, this is what happens, but you guys should still go home and not do this. And Kaepernick, more solid example here instead of arguing the nuances of the Mueller report.
I don't want
solid example here.
Rioting typically is at best, it's bad optics, and at worst, it's probably
more solid example here instead of arguing.
No, I don't want to go back.
Colin Kaepernick directly supported a revolution and violence against people. I'm saying everyone should be found out who led to the death of people who tried to take over federal buildings. Everyone, not just one side. It sounds to me like you're saying only one side should be arrested for doing that. And the point here is people are going to disagree with Trump's statements and cause and find them non-factual at all, and people are going to disagree with Kaepernick's cause and find them non-factual at all. And who knows? We're watching the case right now.
It's the Chaz zone. CHAZ.
Yeah.
I just saw it in the Xanderhal's chat.
Yeah.
I thought it was
Thank you.
Seattle.
Understand.
And he may walk. And
you understand that the vast majority of these BLM protests, 93%, have been completely
you
peaceful?
are correct.
That this is even.
It is Seattle. So not only did she mention that, there's a weird thing about Republicans in Portland. Wait, let me see how many people actually got. Self-declared terms established June 8th, 2020, abolished June 1st, 2020. July 1st, 2020. Yeah, just continue going. I'll look at.
Close to
my
Trump.
gosh, and guess what? 99% of Trump rallies have been peaceful. Why are you trying to excuse the violence?
Because I'm talking about a specific occurrence.
I'm not the one that's trying to excuse the.
Apart from the fact that black people have been beaten up at Trump rallies, disabled people have been beaten up. Anybody who counter protest Trump rallies, gets shit. Don't tell me that Trump rallies have been peaceful.
I'm talking.
To excuse what happened at the Capitol.
I'm
saying
talking
Trump rallies are peaceful. You're the one trying to excuse BLM violence.
Because I'm talking about a very specific riot that happened, an attempt to break into our Capitol, and there were people there that clearly had the intention to kill or kidnap government officials, people that are elected officials. And
yeah, I mean, they had a fucking, hangman's fucking set up for fucking Pence. There was a zip tie guy. The proud
who got in trouble?
Proud Boys, and the 3%ers, waving around fucking automatic fucking weapons. Don't sit there and say that. Don't sit there and say that that you can't compare that to fucking Portland or Seattle or Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter are simply protesting against the fact, against police fucking brutality and fucking racism. They're not trying to overthrow the government. They're not a fucking Marxist revolutionary force.
You're trying to paint it as though BLM is this violent movement. It seems that way, at least.
Okay,
I feel like it's a reasonable way to interpret it.
Was there not literally an assassination of a Patriot Prayer member by a Black Lives Matter member with a tattoo of BLM on his neck within the last year? Let's please do not gloss over political radicalism.
Do you think this is even close?
What
is up with the whataboutism?
I am not doing it with the Capitol. I am saying that is wrong, and they shouldn't have done that, and they should have been arrested for that. The only thing happening here is you are not acknowledging the radicalism, the actual fucking terrorism and murder of individuals by Black Lives Matter, the taking over of federal buildings by Black Lives Matter, the literal autonomous zone created by radicals in which multiple people died in. Can you at least acknowledge that and acknowledge it was wrong? Because I've acknowledged the radicalism on my side and said it was wrong.
So most of the people who died were most of the people that I see that died were protesters who were in support of it. So likely killed by
the
people
police.
Against. Well, not just police. Proud Boys. There was Proud Boys issues. So Proud Boys.
Why doesn't that fucking surprise me?
Yeah, so Proud Boys and Patriot Prayers. So these people are
it's far right militias.
Yeah.
I don't know much about the Chaz thing. I think it was pretty larpy and insubstantial, and I'm not a big fan of it. And I think that rioting typically is at best it's bad optics, and at worst it's probably not good because depending on where you're rioting.
What about murdering people? What about the
probably not good?
Man who was murdered?
Not good.
Probably not good.
No, not a fan of it. No, not very.
Okay.
Don't think highly of it.
Then we agree.
Okay, so we agree that. It is not comparable what Colin Kaepernick said to what Trump did when he was rallying his fan base to attack the Capitol?
I think both caused radicalism and violence, and both should be condemned, but I don't necessarily think either of them should be banned from Twitter. That's the only
is that you're being
Oh my god!
Oh, someone lying and saying that the election was stolen. A president of the United States saying the election was stolen is the same as a man taking the knee during the national anthem and saying that if you don't stop harming people, then people will be upset enough to cause violence. Those are exactly the same thing. Yeah, sure. Fucking hell.
Okay, I'm pretty sure I've been pretty consistent, but all right. How have I been inconsistent?
In both instances, Trump rallied. I think it's questionable whether Trump rallied up people. I don't think he rallied up people to go and cause an insurrection. That's one interpretation of his tweet saying.
It wasn't just what he said on Twitter. It's what he said at the actual, Stop the Steal rally.
Yeah, I mean there wasn't enough to. There wasn't enough to make a criminal case that he incited a riot. There's probably enough to make a civil case, since civil cases don't require as much evidence.
It's not just what Trump said, it's what Rudy Giuliani said at that rally as well, which was even more inflammatory. I forgot can you look up exactly what Rudy Giuliani said?
Sure. Before the Capitol riots. Sure, let's look it up this way. So before the riot, Giuliani. Sorry, I clicked the thing. Okay. if we're wrong, we will be made fools of. But if we're right, a lot of them will go to jail. Giuliani told the crowd, let's have trial by combat.
That's it. That's the bit. Trial by combat. That's inflammatory. Yeah. He was egging them on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say that's incitement. It might be hard to prove. Might be hard to prove for a criminal case, but I think for a civil case, yeah.
Yeah.
And he potentially defended it by saying this is what happens, but he certainly wasn't telling people to go do it, and he tweeted out after, be peaceful and go home. Whereas Colin Kaepernick has actively called for a revolution and actively called for violence. That's the difference between these two. And I'm not even saying Kaepernick should be banned.
No, he hasn't. She's telling porkies.
Porkies?
Lies.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah, sorry, very British expression that.
Yeah, look, I come from America, the people that Britain failed to take back control over, and who lost control over our area. Although both of those are likely, well, the first one is likely due to the French and other people, allies, because holy shit, we did not make good tactical decisions.
Yeah, well, you know, apple and pears, dog and bone, yeah, pie and mash, yeah. I could completely bombard you with British terminology: tosser, twat, wanker. Anyways, we're getting off the subject.
Look, I understood those because those are swear words, and therefore those are the ones I paid the most attention to.
Yeah. Toff, there's another British word. I've known Americans not understand. Glassed. Yeah. I remember you saying the other week when I said glassed, you said, well, you know, the only reason you know what that you know what that means is because you watch Trainspotting.
Yeah.
Anyways, we're getting off the subject.
Sorry.
He would. But you are trying to argue that somehow Kaepernick should be absolved of this rhetoric that has led to murder,
Kaepernick hasn't.
People's shops being
So
burned down,
for starters, Colin Kaepernick isn't the president. For one, two. From my understanding, Colin Kaepernick didn't tweet it out.
He still has massive amount of power over people and their opinions. Apparently more than the president himself, because he didn't get banned from Twitter, whereas the president has lost his voice on every platform in the country.
The president had protections, TOS protections, for years. He didn't get banned until right before he left office. Yes, after he got out of office because he kept on breaking TOS, and they didn't ban him. They voluntarily, Twitter voluntarily didn't ban Trump for breaking TOS.
Trump has literally told his fan base to go. Literally told his fan base to go home in peace. Kaepernick has not done
Trump
that.
Said you are. Trump said I.
Trump only did that because he was forced into doing it, right?
Yeah.
Here's a few other things which haven't been mentioned, right? Pence asked for the National Guard to be called, right? Trump refused.
Yep.
Yeah. So, yeah, you could. Basically, I bet when the Capitol riots were being, you know, televised live, Trump was sitting there in the fucking White House wanking himself to death.
Yeah.
I love you. You're very special, but this is what you all need to go home. You're very special. You're my beautiful little pog champs. But this is what happens when you steal the election from me. By the way.
So the difference, right? So the difference between.
By the way, your chat, Sophia, your chat wanted you to say wanker as well.
Wanker.
What happens, but you guys should still go home and not do this. And Kaepernick just said cause violence.
Sure. If Colin Kaepernick got banned, I probably wouldn't really care. But to be completely honest with you, I don't think he's even close. Do you think they're comparable?
No.
Do you think they're comparable?
No, I don't. I think Kaepernick's way worse.
Why?
What? What? Sorry. I'm gonna just beat my head against this desk.
A person taking the knee, totally the same level of bad as someone who repeatedly spread misinformation. And there was another earlier instance where Trump's statement was taken down because it was a statement that could incite violence. Or that's the one where there was the first one with a warning or whatnot.
Fuck. I'm aghast. How can she fucking... Well, she is Lauren Southern, you know, a far-right bigot.
They because he's calling for violence, whereas Trump was at worst maybe excusing it. At worst, whereas Colin Kaepernick is actively calling.
Are you a consequentialist?
What does this have to do?
A consequentialist is somebody who judges like how bad something is based on the outcome of doing that thing.
Give me the context for it.
Okay, so what Trump did resulted in a full-scale attack on my Capitol in an attempt for an insurrection.
I'm sorry, but if you think those LARPers were actually going to take over the Capitol, it's.
When I say take over, they broke in. They got in. They were looking for. Yes. They were there with handcuffs. They were looking to kidnap public officials. There was security cam footage. That's the closest. That is the closest that's the closest the Confederacy ever got to taking over the government, considering it was the first time in history that a Confederate flag flew in the American Capitol. So there's that. There's also security cam footage of security guards. There's security footage of the vice president having to run down a hallway because a bunch of the rioters came around a corner and they almost got him.
Someone sniffed AOC's shoes. No one was trying.
They had to evacuate it.
I think oh my God!
The police had to shoot them.
They killed a police officer. They killed a police officer. They say like they talk about how much they care about the police. Those people killed a police officer. They murdered a police officer. This isn't like you can't just be like LARPers who didn't do shit. They killed a police officer. They should at least give a shit about that. They're busy sucking the cock of police usually. Like
yeah, Blue Lives Matter.
Yeah.
I half expected to just say, you know, she's saying they were LARPers. I half expected to say, oh, this was just a frat boy, you know, prank. I mean, she is so dismissive of the Capitol riot.
Oh yeah, she is,
and its significance.
Yeah. She's but those were white people doing it, so that was fine for them to steal documentation, for them to murder and injure police officers and other people protecting the Capitol. Yeah, I mean, just
even a small part of you that thinks these LARPers were going to take over the government and start, I don't know, their wave the MAGA flag and start passing laws, you're insane.
Okay, I guess then I can easily respond. If you think that like a bunch of BLM protesters, like what is it, 8%, 7% of them, if you think that, or no, not even, how many percentage of them are peaceful? Let me just, let me make sure, 93%. So if you think that 6% of these protests, if you think that 6% of these LARPers that are actually causing violence in these protests are going to really harm the country, then I guess you're taking it too seriously too. Because if we're going to apply it, then we might as well apply it equally. I take a full-scale attack on our Capitol way more seriously.
LARPers wouldn't harm the country. I said they weren't going to take over the government. I think they did harm to the country as much as I think BLM.
Sorry, 7%.
More harm to the country. You've got this very neat trick of responding to things that I've never said.
I have debate tactics.
This entire debate. But yeah, no, I think both harm the country, and I've been consistent on this the entire time. But I think the degree of sustained protests and violence by BLM has added up to significantly more than the insurrectionists who just got way more media attention.
I feel like you've deliberately tried to downplay the effects of what the insurrectionaries of the Capitol did by calling them LARPers and saying they didn't even get close to anybody.
You used the word LARP first, mate. You're the one who called the people who made Chaz LARPers, and that's when I started using the word LARP. You are projecting all of the things.
They're LARPers, but you're trying to downplay what they did.
So when I use the word LARP, I'm downplaying. But when you use the word LARP,
why are you focusing on the word LARP?
To the deaths of multiple
I know.
people,
listen, Lauren. I know LARP is a funny word. I know LARP is a funny word. It's fun to say. I'm not talking about them being LARPers. I'm not lasering on you calling those people LARPers. We're talking about what they actually did and what they intended to go there to do, and what 4 people died as well. The Capitol security had to shoot people because they were about to get in to an area of the building where there were elected officials, and those people were there. There were people out there with guillotines and gallows there saying to cut off Mike Pence's head. There were people searching around offices trying to take information from elected officials' laptops. There were people there with handcuffs looking to kidnap.
Oh, and let's not forget about the woman who stole the laptop and tried to sell it to the fucking Russians.
Yeah, there's that too.
Yeah, so good patriot there. Not. Yeah, because patriots, you know, basically try and sell their country's secrets, don't they? Yeah.
Yeah, it's a natural American patriotic thing to break into a federal building, steal government secrets, and sell them out to foreign countries. That's definitely patriotic. Oh wait, no, that's not. That's not even close.
Why else do they have handcuffs? Looking to kidnap elected officials. I think it's pretty different. Both are bad, but pretty different than rioting in the streets. Pretty different.
Okay, so once again, you have glossed over. Like, I still have not once tried to excuse the actions at the Capitol. I think that your number is potentially wrong because there were people who died of an overdose. They claimed a cop was killed by rioters who actually wasn't, and had to be corrected. This had to be corrected later by
Sorry,
media.
What?
You have been
That is
basically
downplaying.
you have been downplaying the significance of the Capitol riots, Lauren, which is
They were like there's that video of like the police officer with his head being squished between two fucking doors.
I'm just going to play that bit again because you lied.
Yeah.
Hold on. Okay, just play it again.
We're going to apply it, then we might as well apply it equally. I take a full-scale attack on our capital way more seriously.
LARPers wouldn't harm the country. I said they weren't going to take over the government. I think they did harm to the country as much as I think the BLM has
7%.
more harm to the country. You've got this very neat trick of responding to things that I've never said.
Debate tactics.
This entire debate. But I think both harm the country, and I've been consistent on this the entire time. But I think the degree of sustained protests and violence by BLM has added up to significantly more than the insurrectionists who just got way more media attention.
I feel like you've deliberately tried to downplay the effects of what the insurrectionists at the Capitol did by calling them LARPers and saying they didn't even get close to anybody.
You used the word LARP first, mate. You're the one who called the people who made Chaz LARPers, and that's when I started using the word LARP. You are projecting all of the things.
They're LARPers, but you're trying to downplay what they did.
God damn it. So that fucking statement. You called people one thing. So I called completely different people the same thing. You started it. No, that's not. I call these tarot cards. Oh, you're calling regular playing cards tarot cards? Well, I mean, it's the exact same thing, is it? No, those are different things. Like, Lauren Southern's actually pissing me off now. More so than she already does.
I don't. Why are you focusing on the word LARP? I know. Listen, Lauren. I know LARP is a funny word. It's fun to say. I'm not talking about them being LARPers. I'm not lasering on you calling those people LARPers. We're talking about what they actually did and what they intended to go there to do, and what 4 people died as well. The Capitol security had to shoot people because they were about to get in to an area of the building where there were elected officials, and those people were there. There were people out there with guillotines and gallows there saying to cut off Mike Pence's head. There were people searching around offices trying to take information from elected officials' laptops. There were people there with handcuffs looking to kidnap, why else do they have handcuffs? Looking to kidnap elected officials. I think it's pretty different. Both are bad, but pretty different than rioting in the streets. Pretty different.
Okay, so once again, you have lost. Like, I still have not once tried to excuse the actions of.
You haven't excused them, but you've downplayed them, which downplayed the significance of the Capitol riots, Lauren, which is just as good as excusing. Plus, also, I'll give Lauren Southern some credit, right? She hasn't done what everyone else on the far right has done in regards to the Capitol riots and said that it was actually Antifa.
I think that argument, maybe she would have like a month or two ago, but I think that argument has kind of died out.
Oh no, I've seen Dusty dug up some clips, and there are still people.
Oh, never mind then.
Yeah, still saying, I was there, it was Antifa. Despite the fact they were all wearing fucking MAGA hats. Someone said, one of these people said, it was Antifa because they were wearing the MAGA hats backwards. Sorry, I'm missing something there, but, anyways.
The Capitol. I think that your number is potentially wrong because there were people who died of an overdose. They claimed a cop was killed by rioters who actually wasn't and had to be corrected. This had to be corrected later by the media. Once again, I still have never said that was okay.
Okay.
You are trying.
I don't know what the fuck she's talking about. There is so there were a couple of cops who were fucking around by a car, but U.S. Capitol Police Officer William L. Evans was killed. In an attack on that was an attack on Capitol checkpoint, but Sicknick dies from injuries from the Capitol riots, which is directly by the Capitol riots. There's a lot of ways that they worm. Oh, they were stabbed at the Capitol, but they died in the hospital. That means they didn't die because of the Capitol riots. No, that's not what that means.
I'm trying to say that somehow that is different or on some mass different scale that all of the rioting that has gone on sustained for over a year that has taken over multiple federal buildings led to
93% of the protests have been peaceful. I condemn the rioting. I don't think it's good.
99% of Trump rallies have been peaceful.
We're not talking about Trump rallies. You're the one that brought up the comparison. I'm talking about a very specific event, and you are trying to draw a comparison between a ex-football player.
I'm talking about very specific events too. I'm talking about rioting that has been going on.
The rioting is bad, and I don't support it. The rioting is bad, and I don't support it.
Well, why are you trying to
Plus, the 99% of BNL rallies are peaceful. Right?
Well, also, I don't have a problem with the. I personally.
The media
don't have a problem with riots.
The media concentrated on the riots, but when they died down, the BLM protests went on, right? But there was no looting, there was no rioting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Funny the media. Funny the media doesn't fucking mention that, does it?
I would prefer riots to National Guard and Humvees guarding street corners. That's
because you're trying to. I'm not saying it's better. I'm saying it's not as bad. I'm saying it wasn't.
It's not as bad to assassinate people, to lead to multiple deaths, to kill.
I'm not talking.
I'm
not talking about the one.
So assassinate people. So BLM out assassinating people now, are they, Lauren? What?
This is news to me.
Yeah, news to me as well.
All the secret assassins.
Is it like those the rioters at the Capitol building were actually Antifa because they were wearing MAGA hats backwards? Is that the yeah? Is that the same theory? Right.
You're talking. Wait, why do you keep going? You're switching around. You're switching around from riots to a very particular.
That at least is going to be repaired with the infinite government.
They were trying to kill people. They were trying to kill people, by the way.
BLM rioters successfully kill people.
And I don't support that. Whenever it happens, I don't support it. But why do you keep going? Why is it that you keep on bringing BLM riots and then I go back to
what killing that she's talking about? Like,
well, I'm not either. I'm lost to this as well. I don't know of any person. There might have been.
I'm aware of a lot of killing by police officers.
Yeah.
But I am honestly. There's that one person who was killed, who illegally entered a state and got support by police and was armed.
Carl Rittenhouse. Carl Rittenhouse. He drove. He drove over 2 state lines to basically kill BLM activists, and he's Ann Coulter's hero because she's a cunt, and he's out on bail. Can you fucking believe that?
Yes, I can believe that, and I forgot that he didn't die. He just got. Wait, did he even get injured? What the fuck was up with him?
The Capitol, then you bring up the instance where like they assassinated one guy, which is horrible, and I don't support it. You keep on trying to bring up that one instance, and I guess ostensibly try to connect it back to Colin Kaepernick, when the reason for the riot was very specifically because Trump kept on saying the election was.
So how many people? Right. So Carl Rittenhouse killed how many protesters did he kill? 2, 3, was it? And how many spree far right nutcases have gone on spree killings? Yeah. Dylan Roof killed 9 black people in a church. I remember that one. There's been others since. Yeah, the far right have assassinated far more, people than BLM ever have or ever will.
Yeah.
Yeah, and of course there was. Yeah, and 2 years ago there was that. That guy walked into a supermarket in El Paso, wanting to kill Mexicans. Of course, more recently we had the Atlanta shooting at a massage parlor run by Asians. He wanted to kill Asians. He killed 8.
Yeah.
The far right, as I say again, and I will keep on repeating this, the far right have killed far more fucking people. Okay, such fucking hypocrisy from she forgets this. Well, I don't fucking forget it.
Stolen, and they wanted to punish our government officials for not keeping Trump in office. Why do you think that these are comparable in terms of who holds the responsibility for what? Because that's what this argument was about.
Because you've got a bunch of Black Lives Matter rioters saying we need to hold the government accountable as well, with literal. I've seen guillotines with Trump's head in them. Like, you're making these comparisons about
where were those
rioters that were at
guillotines?
the Capitol when it has happened the other way around a million times and sustained for over a year.
Where were those guillotines?
Okay, what we're arguing here. People can post pictures. There have been guillotines in the streets with Trump's head attached.
Where
to
though?
pages.
Not at the Capitol. While hundreds of people, thousands of people are trying to break in and are specifically out to capture and behead that particular elected representative.
Somehow it's worse if you take over a building with Nancy Pelosi in it than if you terrorize and take over some poor.
I'm sorry. Like,
well, what? Right, because Nancy Pelosi was in the building. Somehow there's media bias. No, there were Republicans in that building as well, like the vice president,
Pence,
who's a Republican.
Pence, the vice president of the former vice president of the United States, who was vice president at the time. They wanted to guillotine him. They went after Republican people as well as Democrats. They were out for blood.
Yeah.
Black person's shop. You think it's worse just because fucking Nancy Pelosi is in the building, but it's
We're
okay
talking
if
about
it's
which
a poor
figure?
person's shop in Minneapolis?
The reason why this argument happened, I think they're both wrong. Yes, the reason why this conversation came up is because you brought up Colin Kaepernick's quote. I brought up Trump's quotes.
The conversation we're actually having is whether it's okay to incite rebellion or not. I think it's wrong. Do you think it's wrong in any instance?
To incite rebellion?
Unless you can prove that the government is tyrannically, committing genocide and severely oppressive and all these things, and peaceful democracy is not.
Well, technically, mass hysterectomies of people in ICE camps is genocide by the definitions of genocide. So
throwing kids in cages, separating them from their mothers, in fucking concentration camps on the border. Shall I go on? Trump was a fascist.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Biden really hasn't done. Hasn't done much to stop them, and he did start them. So it's a lot of horrible people. But Trump escalated to the point of genocide, and because hysterectomies are actively trying to prevent the people from having children. So it is. That's the reasoning for it being a genocide.
And you have gone past those points of being able to have civil debate.
And let's not forget the persecution of LGBTQ people Trump, was doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Lawrence Southern's such a fucking hypocrite.
Past those points of being able to, enact change in your communities. I do not think it's okay to incite civil rebellion, whether you're Colin Kaepernick or Donald Trump. What do you think?
No, but you think it's okay to basically have immigrants drown in the Mediterranean, don't you?
Yeah, Darren? but also Colin Kaepernick wasn't calling for a revolution. He said things need to improve so that a revolution doesn't happen. That's not calling for a revolution. That's saying, please, let's make sure things can happen so that things don't get violent.
Okay, but the responsibility, or how comparable what Colin Kaepernick did to Donald Trump, the comparison there is not even close in terms of the outcome and how harmful it is. And the intention.
That's not the question here. The question is whether Twitter applies the TOS appropriately and whether it treats people who incite rebellion with the same treatment, and they don't. And I've proven that. And you're just arguing.
The reason why Twitter didn't ban Colin Kaepernick is, besides being like I don't even think there's that much attention on him anymore. He's not even nearly as popular and well known and being listened to as much as he was back in 2018.
You're allowed to violate the TOS.
You haven't proved shit, Lauren.
Yeah.
You haven't proved shit. We keep saying Colin Kaepernick did not incite violence. Quite the opposite.
He did a peaceful protest.
He was warning that if people aren't listened to, if you keep basically perpetuating violence against them, they will lash out.
Yeah, which is I mean, true.
Which I don't think he is unpopular.
You're asking why he wasn't banned. Should I ask you why insert lefty here that called for this like 100 follower account didn't get banned? Like, of course he broke.
I'm not the one arguing that the TOS is perfect. I'm the one arguing it's imperfect.
I'm not arguing that's perfect either. Then
You're arguing that it's been applied fairly.
No, I'm not. I've never said once that the TOS applied fairly.
So we agree. Okay, so we agree then.
Okay.
We're arguing over nothing. I think that the problem with Twitter and Facebook and YouTube giving them this much power over people's speech. First of all, I don't think private companies should have this much power over the discourse of the country. And second of all, I don't think they apply the TOS properly and they have bias. That's what the discussion was, and that's what we agree on it apparently.
Okay, if we agree on that what Trump did was deliberate and was deserving of being banned, and what Colin Kaepernick did was probably something that Twitch could like logically ban him for breaking TOS, then I don't think we disagree, right?
We disagree on that. And you know we do because you're being.
No, that's still disagreement because obviously Colin Kaepernick didn't do anything that was against TOS. None of that's against TOS. Like, there wasn't really an argument for it. It's not really a good way to. If you give them an inch, they'll try to take a mile, and Xanderhal is giving her a lot of inches.
Inconsistent, but I'm trying to move on here. Overall, you give the book a positive rating, it sounds like.
Yeah, I like the book. It looks pretty good.
Thank you. All right. If you guys want to pick it up for your kids, you can get it on Amazon, The ABCs of Morality. It's got a positive review from Xanderhal. I think I'm going to add a review on the back that says drops mad bars. And we might just change X's for Xanderhal in a lefty edition we release.
If that actually happens, I'm going to buy it. I will buy a lefty edition. Or just in one single copy where X is for Xanderhal, I will buy it, okay?
All right.
I'll buy a second copy.
I could actually make that happen. But I'll send you a copy as a thank you for having a fun little debate with me. Are there any, how long has it been?
I think it's been 2 hours.
A couple hours, eh?
Yeah.
Are there any other last little notes you want to bring up? Because I have a few.
Okay, there was the Canadian bit.
After this, but I can stay to.
I guess the final meme would be, do you vape?
I did.
Oh, you did.
I'm gonna expose myself here. I actually struggled a bit with smoking for a while. Not very trad life of me, you know. But yeah, I started vaping to try to mitigate that, and since then have managed to mostly get rid of both in my life. But I did hear you in the preamble to this that you wanted me to do a little vape, and unfortunately I don't have a vape on me, so you're just gonna have to vape one out for me.
Alrighty, I appreciate the honesty. I was curious. My chat wants you to say a phrase. Would you say trans rights?
Oh no. I think trans people should have the same rights as anyone else. Like.
All right, that's
this is what equal opportunity is, you know?
Yep.
Everyone gets treated the same and judged on the same scale.
But can you say trans rights though? People want to hear the exact sentence.
Okay, well, what does this mean on a larger scale? Because if it just means they have the same rights as everyone else, then trans rights, my dudes.
All right.
Can you say white rights, Xanderhal? Do white people have rights?
I love white people. Okay, I love white people.
Oh God. Well, that was the debate, folks. As you said, Xanderhal gave too many inches, and
she took several miles. He even backed on the Colin Kaepernick thing, which she had no argument for, but he was willing to give her that. And no, you can't. And it's just so much cringe. And
I think Xanderhal should not debate. People who are definitely more savvy than him, who have been doing this a lot longer. You know, he could, I guess, in a few years, develop some experience and be better. I don't debate people because I'm crap at debating people. This is why I was a little apprehensive about debating Chaos as Mal, because I knew that possibly would be confrontational, because she's a bit of a troll.
I mean, you can always practice debate against me. I don't know how good I am at it or not, but you can practice against me.
Well, we tend to agree on most things, so it'll be.
We do tend to agree on most things.
So it'll be kind of boring.
Look, we
I
can
don't know
debate
what
the merits.
I don't know
of the NCAA the NBA, not the NCAA.
I don't know what Xanderhal hoped to achieve by giving Lauren Southern a platform.
Yeah,
but he doesn't seem to achieve much. So I'm gonna say it. I think Lauren Sutherland got the better of him.
Yeah, no, I honestly don't disagree there. I think that I think that the way in which he moved, or the way she moved things, the way he phrased things, because it's like he can't deal with the fact that they move the goalposts. They always do this. Conservative debaters, and you do have to get them to stick to something. And yeah, she backed out, and he could have doubled down on that, and then she would have maybe left the chat, and then she would have looked like she lost in a lot of ways if she was forced into a position where she left the chat and she didn't get much support for the book. But instead, oh my god, no, I know what the problem is. This is like the goddamn Dusty debate. He didn't read the book before he did this.
Yeah.
He probably promoted it, then read the book, then went into the debate. Because that's what happened with Dusty. He heard from a couple people in chat or something about the idea of Dusty exploiting sex workers or whatever, and then he promoted a whole argument, and then he immediately fucking backed down. It's a terrible, terrible idea. Don't do that.
Yeah.
Learn from the mistakes of Xanderhal. Don't do most of what he does, except for World of Warcraft retail, which I have no problem with him doing that. I have been spending some of my time playing that to get better at it, to whatever. That's a whole complicated thing.
All right.
I'm not going to get into that. I actually am not interested in getting into World of Warcraft retail stuff.
Well, folks, that brings to an end another edition of Botha Rants, a special edition, of course.
Every edition where I get to co-host with you is special.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Me and Ozma will be back tomorrow at 7 p.m. British Summer Time, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time.
And 1 p.m. Central Time. Which why am I about to dox myself? I need to shut up about myself sometimes.
Well, we already know you live in Minneapolis.
That's true. I have mentioned that repeatedly, especially because the National Guard. Not fun going to the grocery store and passing by National Guard, 5 National Guard and a Humvee. You know, the fun armored trucks with a thing on top where you can have a gunner. Always fun for military, armed military personnel to be, in a residential area. Always fun.
Yeah, consequence of the fact the Minneapolis police are a bunch of racists. There,
yeah.
I said it. Tomorrow we will have some possibly big news. Ozma already knows. There's something in the works. That there is something in the works for me. And Ozma, fun enough.
Okay. Yes.
But I don't.
As we know, there's a chance I might be pregnant.
No, it's to do with the growth of this channel. I've had some pretty exciting news. I woke up to a message this morning which really surprised me, but it could be beneficial for the growth of this channel. Anyways, until tomorrow and the Ozma Monday edition of Botha Rants. If you like this video, please give it a like. Go on. Helps us out. If you got any,
there aren't enough likes. I see 8 watching now and only 3 likes. I'm going to shame you into liking this video. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Don't like or dislike.
actually,
no, it's down to 6
hold
now.
on. No, it was very rude of me. Before I get to any of that bullshit, do you want to tell people where they can find you?
Sure. You can find me on the Fluid Voice on Sundays and Wednesdays. You can find clips of earlier shows. You can find a clip of earlier shows on Tuesdays. Tonight we are talking about the liberal agenda on the Fluid Voice, and no, it's not what you think. I just named it that because it's entertaining. It was entertaining too. It's a pre-record.
And next week you'll be talking about new atheism. So I completely forgot we were pre-recording that episode. And about 2 minutes after I woke up yesterday, I got a Zoom link from you, and I was thinking, "What the fuck is this?" And you reminded me that we were doing a pre-record. So for the first hour, you don't hear much from me. And then I've had way too much caffeine in the second half. But anyway.
Yeah, and although it was a joy to have you on, and that was Christy is starting to feel better, and so she will show up in that next week's episode, as well as Wednesday's Rainbow Shelter News. You can find me at ozmainthedark.com. Once I get back into Twitch after sorting stuff out, it'll have links to that, and you can kind of, gauge where I'm at on that site. So,
okie dokie. Well, if you like this video, give it a like. Go on, it'll help us out. If you like what we have to say, please share this video with you on your social media feeds.
Yeah.
If you've got any feedback, leave a comment below.
Yeah, and Sophia here is almost up to 200 subscribers, and you want to share it around extra so Sophia can reach that benchmark.
Yeah, I would like to get to 200 subscribers by the end of the month. Yes. Also, I'm almost at 4,000 followers on Twitter. You can find me at Sophia Botha 74. Links are down below. Would not be nice to get to 4,000 subscribers by the end of the month as well. Sorry, not subscribers, followers on Twitter. It's late. Anyways, in the meantime, take care of yourselves, stay safe, and peace out.
Bye.